All right, looks like we're live and on air. Hey, this is Wes from Thinking Critical. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Got a great panel today. We're going to be talking Marvel Comics 1000. Also going to be doing a little review of Graveyard Shift, John Malin's crowdfunded book. So today we've got two members of the panel on right now. Doc should be with us any minute now. So first, hey, Ash, how you doing today?
Hey, how's it going? It's early, but I'm doing good. Got my coffee.
You ready to talk some Marvel 1000? Oh, I'm sure he is. All right, and also with us we got Pele. How's it going, buddy?
Oh, fine. Happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there.
Absolutely, happy Mother's Day to all the
3.69% women, whatever out there.
All the wonderful mothers out there.
Is it Mother's Day?
It is definitely Mother's Day.
Yes, it is Mother's Day. Oh, did you forget your mother?
I have not had my coffee yet.
So yesterday, I took my my soon-to-be 4-year-old to the store. We were going to get his mommy a Mother's Day card, and he wanted to go look at the toys. I was like, "We can't look at the toys. We're getting a card for Mother's Day." He goes, "It's not Mother's Day." I was like, "No, man. Tomorrow's Mother's Day. It's Mommy's special day." And he goes, "No, it's Boys' Day." I said, "What?" He's like, "It can't be Mother's Day. It's Boys' Day. I want a toy." I was like, "No. I'm telling you, it's Mother's Day." And he wouldn't believe me. So eventually, I kind of forgot about it. But when he woke up this morning, he wished his mommy a happy Mother's Day. So stuck with him.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
sounds like you're raising him right.
Yeah. So if you don't know, I am a new father. We got a new 1-week-old today. And I got my baby monitor here. And we are ready to go. And if you see me sprint that way, I'm probably going to tend on the baby or the wife, depending on which one needs me. So first, let's talk about while I was in the hospital, I started noticing in our little we have a Comics Aficionados collaborator chat that we do every once in a while, and people started talking about all these wonderful new creative teams Marvel is announcing, and what does it mean? There's all this speculation, and Cebulski's finally in charge, and he's bringing back all the great creators that Marvel left behind, and there's going to be a renewed focus on quality, and all the customers are going to be happy. I was completely out of the loop. I didn't even know what people were talking about. I was like, oh, okay, there must be some type of announcements. But I was quite skeptical when I heard all these talkings of Cebulski was going to right this ship at Marvel. I want to thank the doctor. He is here. Hopefully he wished his mommy a happy Mother's Day.
Yes, I'll be heading out there in a couple hours. Go visit.
You have a mother?
I know, right? It's weird.
Wow. That's bizarre.
So
I thought you were spawned on the mountain Saint, the side of Mount Doom or something like that.
Most people believe that. Somehow I actually was born. It's weird.
Yeah. I thought you were forged from old comic paper. So in our collaborator chat, I was hearing all this news about these great creative teams. People were like, oh, finally Marvel gets it. Renewed focus on quality. I was skeptical. I was like, I'm not sure what's going on, but I don't think that's what it's going to be. And boy, was the air let out of that chat when the announcement was made. Doc, what was your reaction to Marvel Comics fake 1000 issue?
Oh God, it was. I looked at it and I literally just Picard double face palmed just sitting there in my office. I was looking at it and I saw it and I said, "Are you fucking kidding me? This is what you came up with. You went out, found all these creators, and this is the best you could do. And you're giving a bunch of people one page. That's it. Just
Who wants one page of an Alex Ross book?
That's terrible.
I have no idea. I mean, I think Alex Ross is just doing the cover. That's his. Oh,
page. that was his page.
I think that's his page. The cover.
So I get Eve Ewing getting one page. Perfect. But why are all these other great creators everyone's been waiting to return to Marvel getting one page each?
You put Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale there, together.
One page.
And then you find out you're just getting one page. You're not getting a new color book from them.
Mm-hmm.
Who in the hell wants one page of that? They want a color book. That's it. That's what we want from Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. What we want from Chris Claremont is a run on an X-Men book. Give people what they actually want, not this stupid one page of nothing.
So did Cebulski overthink this one?
Oh God, yeah.
I think he underthought it.
I think he nuked it. He's like, what can I do to be bigger than Detective Comics 1000? I know 150 creators on an 80-page book. What?
Yeah,
I think he's trying to think of the cheapest way he could possibly pull something like this off to get the most names.
What I find really funny, I mean, there's a lot of things funny about this, but one of the things that stuck out to me was when he tweeted like a few days ago, I think it was a few days ago, where he just like made this weird sort of cryptic tweet about like, I think I'm going to blow up the internet or something like that. And, people are just like, huh, what? And then it's this, and it's just like, God, it's the same freaking thing like the Brie Larson did when she was going to like promote, when she was promoting Captain Marvel. She's like, hey, internet.
Oh gosh, you want to break the internet?
It's like, and then it's like a picture of her on set or something. And you're just like, oh, we thought it was going to be something cool. And like, he legitimately thought this was going to be something cool too. You're just like, this is the problem. You look at this and you think this is amazing. And it's embarrassing at how stupid it is. And that you have the big seat at Marvel. You are sitting in a seat that used to be esteemed. It used to be, there was prestige behind it. You were among legends like Stan Lee and Jim Shooter and so many others.
So perhaps my favorite part of all this is it's Marvel Comics issue 1000 instead of like Marvel Comics 80th anniversary special. So Marvel Comics was a book from 1939 until 1959. It hasn't been published in 60 years. And even if it continued to be published, it wouldn't be on issue 1000 yet. They just totally pulled it out of their asses.
Exactly.
It's like they used to just reboot everything to a #1 series, like to fleece customers. But then they saw what DC did. And they said, how can we fleece them harder? Let's make up a 1000 that we didn't earn.
Oh, yeah. That's it was just pure jealousy. That's all it was. Like, oh, they've got a 1,000-issue book. We need to cash in on that. Oh my God, what are we gonna do?
You're gonna just invent a 1000. Okay. I mean, okay, I get it. It went from like Marvel Comics to Marvel Mystery Comics to Marvel Mystery Theater or some shit, and then it changed into Marvel Tales, and that stuck around for a little while. But it would be nowhere close to issue 1000.
Yeah, it'd be like at 960 or something.
Yeah, I mean, and literally the only way this works is if they just went and said, what's 1,000 months ago, if for 10 years of that we published weekly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The only reason Action and Detective, well, I'm not sure about Detective, but the only reason Action is really at issue 1000 is because they went through those couple of years in the 90s where they were publishing Action Weekly, or was that, when was that?
It was Action Weekly.
Yeah, I know it was Action Weekly, but was that in the 90s or was that in the 2000s? I honestly don't remember.
Here I was looking at earlier.
But the only reason it got to 1,000 now is because they published it weekly for like 5 years. So, hey, there's basically 20 years of publishing in 5. And I think Detective did the same thing for a period earlier, before it was really a Batman, or I think whenever they went through a phase where it wasn't always just a Batman book.
So Breen says Action went weekly in 1988.
Okay. 88.
Yeah,
All right, that sounds about right.
I've got Action 601, which is the launch of that. I was just looking at it earlier because I was actually thinking about the same thing. And yeah, what does this say?
The level of thinking on this just really seems like someone over there was like, well, let's see. We had Marvel Comics was back in the 30s, roughly around the same time, about 80 years ago. So if Action Comics and Detective Comics are about 80 years old, then this is 80 years old. So they're 1,000, then we should be 1,000. So let's print 1,000th issue. And it's just like, that's it. That's it.
Yeah, I think that was the extent of the logic on it. I mean, because even Fat Tom basically said, "Oh yeah, it's just a symbolic 1,000." What the fuck is a symbolic 1,000? How do you have a symbolic number?
Yeah,
it's a number or it's not a number. There's no symbolic numbers. Hey, you know what? I'm a symbolic millionaire. I'll go tell my bank. Let's see how they look at it. Is this like being like trans wealthy, or are they are they trans? I don't know. Published.
So I was thinking about the why they would do this, and I came up with two ideas. They're completely desperate. Like the front office is like, why has DC got these 1,000 issue sales that are going through the roof and basically keeping them afloat for a year, and we don't have an 1,000 issue? So he's desperate and just made one up, or he's just completely oblivious to how people were going to react to them making up a milestone that they didn't actually achieve. So do you think they're desperate or just stupid?
Both.
They're desperate.
I don't
stupid.
think Cebulski has really been slipping over the last several years. I don't think he's left the salad bar area.
I think the problem is he hasn't gone to the salad bar area.
He's been
everything.
Looking for the perfect egg roll for so long, he forgot about comic books.
Yeah, I mean, look, I still think that most of the authority of his job basically got eaten up by by Brevoort, Sana Amanat, and Joe Quesada during the transition phase.
Because Brevoort basically did his job while he was transitioning back from Japan, correct?
Yeah, China, yeah. He Brevoort, and because remember, while Alonso was there, Joe Q never talked. He was never involved. He was never involved in anything. His name wasn't on anything. He was just a C-suite executive. But after Alonso got fired and before Cebulski was back in the States full time, all of a sudden Joe Quesada pops out of the woodwork and starts getting involved again. And he hasn't stopped getting himself involved since then. He went from being a ghost on Twitter to about actual publishing things to actually talking about publishing things. And it was the minute his buddy got fired, because Alonso was his buddy and Alonso was his handpicked successor. And the fact that it flopped miserably, I think it was kind of looked at as, I think some of the people at Disney kind of looked at Joe with like, hey, this was your guy. And you picked him. You told us that he would be the guy. And do you see what happened? And I think some of his attempts were to kind of cover his own ass from the failure of Alonso. And as a result, he never gave up whatever authority he kind of took on during that transition phase. I still believe that Cebulski's basically neutered. He doesn't have any authority to actually do anything. But at this point, I don't think he has the balls to go to Ike and say, hey, these are the fucking people that are running this company into the ground, and they're the ones that stole the authority. They're the ones, Joe rebuilt the company, in the early 2000s, when he took over, and it was, they were working with the lights out and selling the fucking filing cabinets so that they could make rent that month. But since then, since they rebuilt, they've forgotten everything. And but he doesn't have the balls to go to Ike and say, give me the authority to do my job again, because this is what you hired me to do, but I can't actually do it because all these other idiots took all the power. But he's too much of a coward to do it, and he's too much of a, yes man at this point. I still think he's got.
He can't even. The problem is he can't even go take a piss without getting Son Amanat's approval.
Yeah,
and he probably has to sit down to piss. It would be toxic masculinity if he stood up. So I can only imagine what it's like being in that type of environment. I mean, I actually feel sorry I pity him in a way, because
same here.
He's brought a lot of this on himself because he's not a very authoritative person, but it's just his hands are completely tied. So I really don't know what he could do.
So I do try to not directly always shout about C.B. Cebulski, because part of me really does think what you guys are saying is a lot of truth to. And the fact is, we don't really know what goes behind the scenes. This is a lot of conjecture. Yeah. And even if it's educated conjecture, we're still making some guesses on things. So I believe is probably the case. So I usually just try to hammer home the stupidity of what's actually happening rather than pointing the fingers, because I don't really know who. But the fact still remains, he accepted the job. He's sitting in the big chair. Yeah, you're going to take, someone's got to take the blame, even if he's a puppet. He decided to be the puppet. And
and he's the one that's staying the puppet. If he, he can quit.
Well, plus his name's on all the books as the EIC.
Yeah.
Whether they're his idea or not, they're his responsibility.
For sure. And I think all I'm trying to say is I think sometimes he's been given a bad hand, and he's just trying to do
exactly.
I don't think anyone I don't think you could put anyone into Marvel and in that chair right now and they would be able to do anything, because the politics and Joe Quesada and Sana Amanat and all this stuff you guys mentioned.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would be able to really do anything good. So by putting too much blame on CB almost feels a little bit unjust, because who could anyone do better? Would they be allowed to?
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, unless he's willing to literally risk his entire career and basically be like, you know what? I'm firing all these fucking people, and you could fire me, but you will have a good company after I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
But who's going to do that? It's not like, it's not a labor of love for it. I mean, well, it is to a degree, but it's still a job. He's still got to, it's not like he's just doing this, out of the goodness of his heart, and he doesn't actually need the money.
And where would he go? In this type of industry, it's so small. It's, it's not like he's the head of a tech giant or something where someone else absorb him.
Yeah,
you get ousted in this industry, you're done. It's like,
I mean, hell, look at Jim Shooter. Jim Shooter went from running, he was a 15-year-old kid from Pittsburgh that was writing scripts for DC at the time, and then Marvel, and then by like 22, he was basically the EIC of Marvel, and then ran it for 15 years, something like that.
Right.
Until they ousted him. And then he was back to writing some Legion stories for DC, running Valiant. And then he got ousted from Valiant. And whenever they, early Valiant and around the original Unity, they ousted him, and then he went to go and make, I don't even remember what the hell the name of the company that he created after that was. It was some little tiny publisher. I just remember that one of the books was called Warriors of Plasm.
Yeah, and that's the one that got the company killed.
Yeah. And I don't even remember the name of the company. I just remember, I think it had like a lighthouse or something as the logo. But ever since then, I mean, what's Jim been doing? He's basically living off royalties from his from his time at Marvel and DC, and occasionally coming back to write a Legion story here or there. That's pretty much it.
What's really sad is he was like literally, I think, a few $100,000 from having the bid to buy Marvel.
I think so.
Oh my gosh. I did not know about this.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't know this?
I think I was out because I got out of Marvel right before their whole big bankruptcy thing. And so I didn't follow the details of that. And it's just a black hole for me at this point.
Yes.
Yeah, they were right on the edge. Signed, they had the paperwork out and everything like that. He just could not come up with the bread.
Yeah, he was like literally. It was in his hands and it got yanked away at the last second. It was really sad.
Oh my gosh, what like, Marvel
if I would have known that, I would have loaned him the damn money just for like a 2%.
Oh, Defiant Comics. Defiant Comics.
Oh, I remember Defiant. Yeah.
Defiant, that was it. But yeah, the guy was so close to being able to basically own Marvel. And I mean, can you imagine? I mean, Jim Shooter's a giant pain in the ass, but the guy knows comics. The guy knows how to sell them.
Well, and he also knows how to run a comic lineup in a universe and get things out on time and keep continuity and stuff like that. It's
man. What Marvel could be if Jim Shooter owned the company?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it's pretty weird the way it ended up working. The MCU might not have ever come into play and stuff because Marvel ended up being in bankruptcy and got almost was getting pieced apart, and that's how Ike Perlmutter, the toy store company guy, ended up having a part of it.
Yeah, he basically parlayed his debt into capital for ownership of Marvel, and they were basically keeping themselves afloat. That's how they, when they sold the X-Men rights and then they sold the Spider-Man rights. They sold the Spider-Man rights like 3 times. The Fantastic Four rights. That's how you ended up with the Roger Corman movie because he just needed to make something to and get it, and get it out there to keep the rights.
You have to be in production.
Yeah, and hell, you almost saw the same thing with Daredevil almost didn't come back to Marvel a couple of years ago because Fox still had the rights to that, and they were literally 3 weeks. They lost their director 3 weeks before they were supposed to start shooting, and that's why they never, why Daredevil's rights reverted.
That's a happy accident.
Huh?
Happy accident.
Yeah, exactly. Because they were going to do a Daredevil movie set in the 70s, and the director backed out 3 weeks before they were set to start shooting. And if they didn't start shooting by a certain date, the rights reverted. And that would actually at the time that was when Ike basically killed all of the Fox properties because of the negotiations that happened right after that, because Fox tried to negotiate with Marvel and Disney. I guess Disney owned them by then. They tried to negotiate with Fox or with Marvel and Disney, and Marvel and Disney basically said, give us the Silver Surfer and Galactus and you can keep the we'll extend the rights on Daredevil. And Fox came back and said, well, we'll give you one or the other.
Right.
And not realizing, hey guys, you guys are at the kind of the short end of the negotiating stick here. Also, who in the hell is going to do Silver Surfer or Galactus without the other? That's weird. I mean, you can do Galactus without the Surfer, but you can't really do the Surfer without Galactus. And when Fox said no to both, and Marvel said both or nothing, and Fox said nothing, that was right around the time that
Fantastic Four.
That was when Ike walked through. There was a story about Ike walking through the office and ripping down every piece of Fantastic Four merch that was on the wall. Like if you in your cubicle, if you had a Fantastic Four poster, he would rip it off the fucking cubicle.
That's
Didn't matter if it
hilarious.
was yours.
That's sad.
He tore down every, and that's when, because that was, I think, around the time that the Alan Davis, John Hickman run was going on Fantastic Four, and he just killed it. You know, basically they killed that whole run, and that's when they took Fantastic Four off the board for, you know, however, a couple of years.
Wow. If he was really savage, he would have put Bendis on Fantastic Four and ruined it forever.
Harsh, dude.
Okay, so let's get back to Marvel 1000. So this is the way I understand it, and it's pretty stupid. There's going to be one page for every year of Marvel history, and they're going to sum up that year of Marvel history on the one page with a different collaborator team, and there's going to be 80 pages of one story that spans 80 years, I guess, of history with 80 different creators, all written by Al Ewing. Is that how you understand it, Pele?
Yeah, that's the way I understand it. I mean, I can't imagine what it's going to actually look like.
You can't make this stuff up.
Oh my God! I mean, could you imagine how disruptive it's going to be to even try to read the damn thing? You know, it's just like, what? Who is that? What? Oh, I think that's Gambit. But yeah, he's got short hair here. He had long hair there. What? You know, it's going to have Arthur Adams and then followed up directly by Bill Sienkiewicz. You know, what are they going to do there? Are they going to at least try to blend the styles to make them kind of look?
So do they really need a writer to write like one page of dialogue each? This is my favorite part.
It's gonna read like somebody who's having an epileptic seizure, you know, and it's gonna look like, you know, oh God, I can't imagine it looking good.
Jarring. Every page is going
to be. Not that Marvel has continuity, but there's not going to be any continuity within the issue at all. You know, it's just going to be a mess.
Also, what do you guys think about like the special guests? Like, I think there's a Black IP writing this thing.
Oh, we got Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is on this one.
We got Lord Miller.
Oh,
well, at least Lord and Miller are writers.
Oh, yes.
No, I was thinking about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
I mean, if they were going to do anybody, it would have been like Marcus and McFeely. I feel like they're the ones that should be, you know. I know that Jeremy's not here today and, you know, hates the MCU, but, you know, they were the ones that basically did all the Captain America movies and the last two Avengers movies. You know, they've been kind of the Marcus and McFeely. They are the ones that wrote all of them. They wrote all of the Captain America movies, all three Captain America movies, and the last two. You know, the Russo brothers just directed them.
Or the directors for them.
Yeah. But Marcus and McFeely, actually, they seem to have, they're the ones that kind of wrote everything and have a pretty good feel for, you know, at least the characters. You know, whether or not it was filmed all that amazingly is, you know, up for debate. But I generally enjoyed all the ones that they worked on.
So one thing that I think is kind of weird is Al Ewing's writing this. Because to my knowledge, other than like Immortal Hulk, has he really written like a lot of good Marvel, like classic Marvel tales? How the hell did he get to be the guy that wrote this?
Yeah, he's the new it guy. You know, he's the new super talent boy for the next, probably the next several years. They're trying to make him out to be Donny Cates, and he's not Donny Cates.
Yeah, No, but I do think he's a very good kind of big idea guy. I you know what, as much as it didn't sell, and it was sort of once again, it was kind of the spiritual successor to his every black character in Marvel New Avengers title. I really did like the Ultimates and Ultimates 2 that he did. The ones post Secret Wars, it actually made America Chavez a relatively interesting character. It gave us Monica Rambeau. It was the one that turned Galactus into the Lifebringer.
Had some really excellent Galactus coverage during that run too.
It did. I mean, he did get Ken Rocafort for most of that run, so Ken Rocafort's kind of awesome. But I do generally like Al Ewing. I just won't buy anything from him because he's a block-botting idiot now. So,
yeah, his contempt for fandom is makes me not want to buy anything from him either. But he does seem to be one of the fewer creators over at Marvel that is the closest thing to like an old school, comic guy. My understanding about the Marvel 1000, maybe I'm wrong. If you guys have knowledge, this is kind of a new announcement, so there's still a lot of speculation. There's new information coming in about it. But I had heard that this book was going to be 80 pages with 80 creators as teams, each team getting 2 pages, 2 creators, 2 pages. So 80 pages, 80 creators, but each team having 2 pages. So, it'd be like Chris Claremont with an artist on 2 pages and then and then Al Ewing is more of the guy who's just putting the framework down. So there's like a board, like a outline to work with. So it's just not all over the place, but that you're actually having writers write things. Hopefully. I mean, am I wrong?
I think that he's going to be, Al Ewing's probably going to be more like the managing editor as far as the book. So
yeah. And I think his pages will be the pages that he does, because he's on like 4 of those creative teams. Like actually, whenever they showed the pairings, I think his pages will be kind of like, every probably 10 pages in order to kind of keep the whole story on track. So everybody knows, okay, here's this plot beat, here's this plot beat, here's this plot beat, here's this plot beat. Fill something in the middle that lets you get from point A to point B.
So, I want to talk about the cover. I find it problematic. Why is Squirrel Girl on the cover?
I honestly don't. I don't know why in the hell. Like the entire left side of that cover makes no sense to me.
Me neither.
Well, why is Captain Marvel front and center, in front of the logo of Marvel Comics?
Well,
she's the new figurehead of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, but she is not. This is supposed to be a celebratory issue of the history of Marvel, not the new thing. It's like we're reflecting on the past of all the greats. Captain Marvel doesn't have a place there.
Neither does Squirrel Girl. Neither does.
Well, you're right, but at least Squirrel Girl. If Captain Marvel was off on the side, I wouldn't be necessarily having the issue. I mean, they put her like dun 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 like that pose, and she's the only character that is put in front of the logo. The title. Every other character, the logo is in front of them, like Daredevil, Black Panther. You see up there, but she goes in front of the logo.
In my opinion, that's the spot where Jean should be.
That should be where Captain America is, or Spider-Man.
I mean, okay, I could see either one, but if you're going to put one of the female characters there, it absolutely should be Jean.
Well, okay, but I mean, it's not the issue that she's a female that I'm talking about. It's the character. Like Spider-Man has been the face of Marvel for what, half a century? Like,
yes, I'll agree with that.
And Captain America is kind of like Marvel's Superman, so he's a representative of Marvel in a different way. They're both. It's like DC has Batman and Superman, Marvel has Captain America and Spider-Man. Like that's just their big guys that everyone knows, even if they're not your favorite characters. They're just synonymous. They that's what Marvel is. And then you've got all the other stuff like X-Men and Iron Man and everything people love. But
there's none of the Fantastic Four.
None of the Fantastic Four. That's so bizarre. That's the first Marvel comic.
The Thing would be on there.
That's the first Marvel comic.
Oh,
Yeah.
you know, where's
So-
I mean, what the hell? And then what is this? They've got all this action going on and stuff like that, and these characters jumping into action. And you got Miss Marvel up there. It looks like she just bumped 5 grams of ketamine.
Well, if
up there in
you
the upper
actually
left-hand corner. So,
if you look at the poses on each of the characters that they picked, pretty much the most whatever is the most kind of noted cover of that character, it's the same pose. Spider-Man there is in the same pose as the cover of AF-15.
yeah, he is. Yeah.
Colossus,
Yeah.
Colossus is running. Colossus and Wolverine, those are the exact same. And Storm, all of those are from the cover of
Giant size
X-Men #1. Black Panther is from one of the Jungle Action, I think. Thor is from Journey into Mystery.
Oh wait, there is Daredevil up in the upper right. He's covered up by the stupid logo. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because they put a red character with in the red background of that's terrible placement.
Yep.
But that and Thanos, that's Infinity Gauntlet. Hulk, that is
Hulk #1.
And Captain America, that's the Captain America from the bottom corner of Captain America #1.
Mm-hmm.
But what's that Squirrel Girl pose from?
Honestly, I don't even know, because I don't know enough Squirrel Girl comics to know.
And you Doc, you're a Marvel guy.
Yeah, well, but it's fucking
teasing,
Squirrel Girl. Who the hell cares? And that
And she's a fake superhero anyway. All of it, her entire interaction with the Marvel universe is in her imagination. So she's a fake superhero.
What's really, really amusing to me, though, is that both Spider-Gwen and Spider-Miles have the exact same pose. So they're both of their most iconic covers are basically swipes of one another.
Right.
So not only, I mean, and I don't think necessarily this character should even be on the cover, but like there's no Deadpool. Like that. I mean, in the past 20 years, Deadpool is probably the biggest thing for Marvel.
Yeah.
Even the guy Spider-Man's rescuing gets more precedence over Fantastic Four and Deadpool.
Yes.
You made it, buddy. Congratulations.
I mean, hell, they could have stuck Deadpool in the spot of the guy that Spider-Man was rescuing, because then it's both an homage to AF-15, and there was at least one Deadpool variant cover that had Deadpool in the spot of that guy.
Yeah.
As kind of an homage cover, like an homage / spoof.
Yeah,
cover.
if you're going to represent the modern Marvel, I mean, Deadpool is probably the best representative. But God, 3 Spider-Mans, just
3
right,
Spider people on the cover.
We got some questions in the comments. First, I want to talk about Dave's question. He said, "Do any of you guys remember or see my video on Heroes for Hope?" He says it's similar. Doc, you remember Heroes?
Yes. I was going to shout out.
Oh yeah,
Dave stole my thunder. Dave Sanowich. I never know if I'm pronouncing it right. You should pronounce it on your video, by the way, Dave.
His last name, I didn't say it.
He did a cool video on Heroes for Hope back in the 80s. I'm pretty sure it was the Jim Shooter era, if I'm guessing correctly.
it was, and it had an Art Adams cover.
Oh, beautiful Art Adams cover.
Yes.
And he kind of compares and contrasts a little bit, and says, here's that similar idea, but back done when Marvel was knowing what they were doing. It's a really fun video. I encourage everyone to go look it up and watch it.
The 1000 issue from DC, they stole the idea from Jim Shooter.
Really?
I don't know if they stole the idea, but that Heroes for Hope book feels like they took that idea. That it's actually was a Chris Claremont idea, I believe.
Oh, well, that's even worse than me.
It feels what they're doing here, like what they did then. But that doesn't necessarily mean they stole the idea. Either way, it's a bad idea.
So what I was wondering is, what is the motivation? I heard Cebulski talking about, oh, it's been a long time since we sold a 1 million, 1 million copy book.
Star Wars, right? Star Wars #1.
Yeah, Star. Is this what he thinks is going to sell 1 million copies?
If he does, he's very sorely mistaken.
They can do
overships. He kind of said those things at the same time.
Yeah, he was talking about the same thing, them at the same time. So I think if he thinks that this is going to be a 1 million copy seller, he's incredibly wrong.
That's what I'm wondering about here.
The only, first of all, Star Wars only sold 1 million copies because they counted all of the printings. They counted all the printings together, and
all the overshipments.
Yeah, all the overshipments, all the copies sold to all the special store variants for like Hot Topic and all these places that don't sell comics. That's the only reason that they got to 1 million copies. Now, if he thinks that this is the only way this sells 1 million copies is if they manage to print an 80-page book with like 80 different creative teams and sell it for $1.
That's basically what I was thinking. Yeah, they would have to sell it for like $1, maybe 50 cents even.
Yeah,
just to get 1 million copies out the door, because I don't see more than 20, 25 people at my shop who are going to want to buy this.
So Paley,
which is like middle tier Marvel. Go ahead, sorry.
So you're a comic shop owner. The announcement's been out for a few days. What was the reaction?
Oh, so I've had people, like, oh, make sure I want to get this. Oh yeah, make sure I want to get that. But it's not like, it's about.
So there's been a little bit of interest.
A little bit of, a little buzz over it, about like what, about like War of the Realms did. Not anything, not anything earth shattering. So it's it's not going to be a Civil War type situation. It's not going to be Secret Wars or must have type of thing. Detective blew the doors off those covers, and I had an entire legal pad sheet front and back, people's names and what issues they wanted and all that kind of stuff, the customer number, and then I'm sitting there just writing them down as fast as I could, and then putting them into the system so I can get everything sorted out. On this, it's like, okay, well, you want the, okay, I'll make sure to get about 25 copies in.
I mean, this one is going to entirely depend on price point. If they're selling it and not expecting to actually make money and just want to get people reading, then maybe, if they can sell 1 million copies at $1.50, they'll still make money.
But this is going to be a $7, $8, $10 prestige format book.
So, somebody, I think it was Perch said he expects that this to be the book that they experiment breaking the $10 plateau with, and he actually thought 13 was the number for this one.
Then I'm putting my money on $11.99.
Then I'll order 10 copies.
Yeah, if this is, I mean, look, let's be honest here. They tried this 2 years ago with Legacy, and they did Legacy #1, and it was only $5.99. It was how many pages? 60 pages, 50 pages, something like that.
I think it was a 64 page.
Okay, yeah. So they did it with Legacy, and how many tens of or hundreds of thousands of copies of that are still sitting rotting on store shelves today? Because it was overshipped and it was pumped up with an obscene number of variants. Nobody cared This is because it's the exact same kind of story where they're just and based on what they said about this infinity or eternity mask thing that Al Ewing's sticking in there, they're retconning some sort of thing into the Marvel universe that apparently might have always been there, but we didn't know, kind of thing. They're doing that again. Yeah. And it's no different than, the Sentry back in the 90s. It's no different than the Avengers 1 million BC that, somehow there was this super team that nobody knew existed, or this superhero that nobody knew existed. They were always there, but nobody. Look, everybody's tired of this shit.
Yeah.
And so all they're doing is basically telling the history again, trying to, kind of shoehorn this new MacGuffin into retconned history and sell it for $10.
How many times are they going to respin the mythology? How many times? How many times are they just going to rehash? It's just.
Well, they don't. Let's be honest here. They don't know how to go forward because every time they've tried to go forward, they've shot themselves and they've tripped over their own dicks. Because they don't want to have the characters that people want front and center. They want to make new ones and I understand making new characters, but I mean, seriously, how long did it take Domino and Deadpool? How long did it take Deadpool to actually become Deadpool like we know now? 15 years? It happened in about 2007, 2008. I mean, hell, until then, you could still find New Mutants 98 sitting in a dollar bin. And then all of a sudden it started getting popular. It took X-23. Honestly, X-23 is still not really popular, but it's taken her a decade to get kind of popular.
Yeah.
It takes time. They want all these overnight sensations. And sorry, it's not going to happen. It took 15 years for Deadpool and a lot of work by a lot of creators to make Deadpool.
Well, I mean, the new characters have there's no fire. There's nothing there to draw people in. Activists are not customers, and they still trying to push activism, and it doesn't sell.
Well, my point is though that they don't know how to go forward and actually make money. They don't know how to even talent search at this point to make money, so that somebody else can come in and find a way to move them forward. And so the only thing they're left with is respinning the mythology every year.
I mean, literally, the only way I see forward right now, the only thing I see that could possibly get Marvel back onto stable footing, into developing and a creative and worthwhile direction would be to just cut all the fat, and then you take somebody like a Chip Zdarsky or Donny Cates, or maybe both of them together, and say, here, you're the editors, go forth and rework the Marvel universe for the modern era.
Yeah, I mean, I said this whenever, I even suggested this to Liefeld. I told him, dude, because he was talking about what do you want next? I'm like, I want you running the X office.
Right.
That's what we want. We want you running the X office with Willis, because all you did, you literally came up with Major X, who's, let's be honest, it's Deadpool Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
With Black Cable inside the armor. Come on, it's nothing. There's nothing amazing or earth-shattering about it, but it's just fucking cool. And it's selling absurd amounts.
It's amazing what you can do when you create characters out of fun rather than agenda.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I don't know if you've noticed, but I don't want to get too far off topic here. Rob doing what Rob's doing right now, his Twitter interactions have become better. His overall, like, you can see just looking at him, like the way he interacts with people. The guy is having the time of his life. He is having so much fun, and he's making money.
Yeah.
He's making the company money. And
I wanted to address something that Wes had asked earlier in the conversation, and he had talked about, are they desperate or are they just stupid? And we were talking about this, and I've been kind of on this kick for the past, I don't know, 6 months on my own channel and my own conversations where I talk about Marvel's desperation, and you can see it in the way that they're rebooting everything and all these number ones. It's this downward spiral, sort of like glass gasp of a dying company just trying. You see this in so many other industries where there's like, how can we make money? And you just try to pull out all the stops. And this Marvel 1000 feels like that. And I wanted to address, we've been talking about a lot of different things about like the price and things. And I think you guys are right. If it was like $1 issue and they were like, let's just get people reading and enthused about comics, it probably would sell. But the problem is we all know this isn't about Marvel trying to be an ambassador for comics and trying to build an audience. This is Marvel going, we're desperate. And so we know it's going to be like $10, $11, $12, and because of that, it won't sell. But the sad thing is if it does, if somehow Marvel pulls another one out of their ass and fans just are like, oh, we're going to buy into this. Like we bought into the $10 X-Men number 11 issue. And just, I'm afraid we're going to see fake 1000, like Amazing Spider-Man 1000, like they're just going to make up fake. That'll be like the new thing instead of number ones.
The only stores that really have the money to go in for something like that, to buy the requisite number of copies required to do that, or the Amazons, the Midtowns, those types of places, they're the only ones that can, because all the other comic shops that are like normal sized and smaller, they don't have the budgets to buy into those issues. They just don't. These are stores that are struggling just to be able to afford the $4, $5 issues each.
And that's when they're only paying $2, $1.50 for their price. If they're paying $5,
if you're looking at a $12 book, you're looking at $5.50, maybe $5 if you're ordering 200 copies, 300. But nobody's going to order that many. No, it's just not going to happen. Nobody's going to say, these are people that are buying, on delivery. These are people that have to run to the bank and get a cashier's check for the COD for their comics every single week. Because their company check won't clear. Because it's bounced too many times. So these are stores that are barely able to cover their rent, barely able to cover, a lot of them pay their employees in comic books. I personally know of stores that do that. They have people that come in on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Tuesdays, and they have 2 or 3 guys that come in and help, fill out the folders and stuff like that. And they get paid in their subscriptions. They don't have real income. They don't have, they don't have insurance. They have no benefits, nothing like that. They're just paid in $40 or $50 worth of comics every week.
It's the equivalent of you paying your buddies in pizza for helping you move.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, that's a sad state of affairs in the industry, and my heart goes out to all these shops that are struggling to do this. And this is just another example of Marvel and their predatory practices, not caring about this whole thing that you're painting a picture. They don't care, because the fact is the whales and the guys that'll support this. I mean, when Detective Comics, I know it's Detective Comics. It's not Marvel 1000. I get this. But I mean, I was watching guys when I went into my shop, which admittedly is a bigger shop in a bigger city, but guys were buying literally like every cover. Like here, 10 covers, boom, it was like $118. Just bam, bam. I was like, whoa. I was just like, and like it was nothing. You know, I was just like, what are you doing? These are worth nothing. You're paying $120.
I mean,
So
I
there
got
will be
150
guys,
copies.
I'm
I got
sure, that will
150
buy
copies of
stacks
Detective
of this.
1000.
And if they can't get it at the shop, if there's like a little poor shop that can, they're going to go on Discount Comic Book Service and they're going to order stacks of it there. So Marvel will still get, maybe. I'm not advocating anything here. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate or just ideas. My fear is that they will find a way to succeed. They will find a way to get this gimmick into hands of people, and then they'll keep pushing it like they have with their number. I thought the number one gimmick was going to die in 2018, and they're doubling down on it in 2019.
If they do succeed in this, it won't be through the LCS network, because the LCS network does not have. I mean, Detective 1000, you know, was successful because of so many pre-orders, because of so many people putting down money on the barrelhead saying, "I want to buy this." You know, it was everybody lining up. And I don't see, there's not the buzz for this as there was for that. You know, even Action 1000 did not produce the amount of buzz that Detective did, because of the cover situation. But I ordered 100 copies. I ordered 100 copies of Action 1000. Ordered 150 copies of Detective, 1000. I had lots of people ordering specific covers. I mean, they wanted 5, 6. I had one guy that wanted every single one of them. But the situation here with this is you got the one cover that's going to be like the main cover. I haven't seen what the variants are going to look like. I'm sure there's going to be some.
Of course, it's Marvel.
And but they're not going to be the same tied in type of situation, as Detective was. So, like I said, I'm going to order, if it's $12 book, I'll probably order 10 to maybe 15 copies of it. It's not going to be something that everybody's lining up for, because it's a made up number. There's no heritage behind this. There's no history behind it.
It's not earned.
No, it is not earned.
It's not earned.
I as a consumer, I am a fan of LCS's, big supporter of LCS's. I really hope you're right. In fact, I'm pushing a little initiative of my own to actually help promote people to pre-order not buying this book. Go to your LCS and tell them, I am not going to buy a single copy of this book. Please do not order considering me that I will pick one up off the shelf.
Yeah.
Save yourself some money so that you can know. And if we can get large enough people to all go to their stores and say, hey, I'm not buying this. Please do not order thinking I will pick it up. So, you're not stuck with the bill, and stores can order to sell out. And hopefully that means, stores can sell as many as they can. I want them to sell comics, but this sort of stuff just makes me upset. It's bad for business. It's bad for consumers. It's bad for it's just bad for everyone.
I don't like to talk about this because it's very personal on a level, but I'm anonymous, so I can kind of get away with this. But I've got a ledger underneath the counter at my shop that keeps track of all the other shops that I've loaned money to, so that they can actually pay their weekly bill. And I've got several of them that are like into the $4,000 and $5,000 range that I've had to help them cover their CODs. So they're not going to have, they don't have money for this. If any of them came forward to me and said, oh, I need $500 to cover my and I've got that big Marvel 1000 coming out, I say, good luck. I hope you can get a small business loan, because that's not going to sell, and I'm not going to help you destroy yourself.
So, Pele, one of the things Marvel does, and they've been doing it for a while, is overships. If this is an 80-page book, is Marvel going to be able to overship by 100%?
It depends on the format. If it's a prestige format, the nice square bound prestige type look and feel 80-page thing. No,
No,
they're
they would
not.
lose too much, right?
Yeah, you're talking about the printing costs are at least 3 to 4 times higher. I mean, that's still not, for Marvel, not a huge amount of money. It maybe cost 80 cents or 70 cents depending on their bulk, the printing bulk and the paper quality and stuff like that. But still looking at at least 60 to 70 cents, I'd say, in that area. But when you're talking about the over shipping, we're talking 10 to 15-cent books. The onion skin paper.
Yeah.
The ink bleeding onto your fingertips. Kind of half-assed modern Marvel quality. Yeah, they can overship like crazy on that stuff, and they do. If I order 5 copies of Squirrel Girl, which I wouldn't, but if I ordered 5 copies of Squirrel Girl, I'd get 10. And that's pretty typical. That's pretty common, and it would just, I would just have to pay the shipping on the extra Squirrel Girls, which they're not even worth that. But it's, and they would, and that's what they do. On the bad selling time, Iceman, my God, the last Iceman book I ordered 5 copies and received 15. So, that's the way they bump the numbers. They only sell, I mean, if it says they sell 10,000 copies of Iceman, they're literally distributing 10,000 copies. Well, yeah, but the sales numbers are probably around 4,000.
Yeah.
So
if they try to overship, 100% overship on a book like this at 80 pages, and even if it's, even if they just, it's just stapled, an 80-page stapled book, the amount of extra weight,
yeah, that'd be a lot on the
that's
shop.
a lot on the shop. You're talking like literally like an extra long box.
Right.
Or well, not long, the UPS long box things that they ship in. You're looking at, and that's a significant amount of money.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's going to be like viable like it is.
Well, no, I think
your agents of Atlas that they just 100% overship.
That one, well, no, that one may actually be, they can't do it because it actually may be actionable from them, like to go back after them, for unsolicited mail, because that's a lot of weight.
So this is the numbers on this will be driven by orders from shops.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that will be determined on what they end up pricing it at.
So, Pele, as a shop owner and a professional in that side of the industry, now C.B. Cebulski said pretty much that he wants, it's about time to have a 1 million copy seller. So everything you guys have said about this, about shops can't afford and everything, I agree with it. I understand it, but it doesn't sound like Marvel is interested in hearing those excuses. I feel when you say they're going to sell 1 million copies, that doesn't sound like to me like they're just going to be cool with 30,000 orders or something. That they're going to find a way to try to pressure these shops into ordering way more than they should. They have this idea that they're going to sell 1 million copies. They're not looking to sell 80,000 copies.
Right.
What do you think they're going to do?
What they'll probably end up doing is if you want to remain at the particular tier that you're at, you're going to have to order a particular number of books, and they're going to make Diamond try to enforce something like that. But the problem with that is, the blood from the turnip type situation. The people are just, they're just going to end up saying, okay, well, I won't be at that tier anymore. I don't have any more blood to give.
Can you explain what you mean by tiers? Is it a discount on ordering?
Yeah, it's basically, what volume you normally sell. It's complicated metric that they have, how many different types of books. It's like a lot of the way they do their incentive covers. It's weird. It's like you have a certain block of comics and you have to order a particular number of each one to get an incentive to get a particular incentive book. That's the way they calculate a lot of those 1 or 2 per store copies, of special incentive covers. And what they'll do is they'll say, okay, to get your other books at this particular price, and to get these additional incentives, or to get these added, wall decorations, and to be on this floor planning service, and stuff like that, you're going to have to order X number of copies of Marvel 1000.
Mm-hmm.
And so
it's leverage.
Yeah, it is leverage, and it's completely within the contract. But the problem is it's just reached a point where people won't be, owners won't be able to do that. I'm not going to do it. I'll just flatly deny it. You only order 100 copies of this, blow me. Pardon my language. It's not something that I don't do well with threats, and I'm not going to do it. I'll find posters somewhere else. I've had the same damn posters. 90% of the posters on my walls, have been there for the last 5-6 years because I like those posters, not because I'm trying to sell your new shitty books.
So, Haley, I know we're hammering with questions on this, but I have
No, that's good.
I do have a question. So, what tactics does like Diamond or your Marvel rep do to try, to pressure you into buying books that you don't want?
Oh, it's bad. I mean, let me here's a great example. All right, you notice that there's televisions in every comic book shop now.
Mm-hmm.
They have to have a television. You cannot not have a television, and it has to be a particular size. It's got to be like a 32-inch or larger. All right, you have to have a television if you're a certain tier shop. You have to have a television. It must be playing the entire time that the store is open. It must be playing from a particular list of movies, cartoons, or promotional materials provided by Diamond, and it has to be at a particular volume within the shop. And you have to be able to have comics and related items associated with the movie that you are showing at the time, available on hand, ready for sale. And they want you to show, like, if a new Fantastic Four is coming out, and you want to, you've got to have the Fantastic Four movie. You've got to have the, Rise of the Silver Surfer. You've got to have something like that in particular playing on a loop. It's got to be something that matches with that particular show. With that particular promotion that they're doing that week. And if you don't, then they send spies out to the shops. I'm not kidding about this. They send spies, and who will go to each one of the shops. You don't know when they're going to be there. You don't know who they are, and they will do an assessment on your shop, and they'll say, okay, do the breakouts look right? What about the caps? How do the shelves look? And what's on TV? How loud is it? Because if you don't, then you'll get marked down. They'll drop you a tier. They'll penalize you.
It almost sounds like the Chinese social media score.
Yeah, it really is. That's how draconian it's gotten now. You can't, I got penalized during the Conan event because I was playing the Conan movie, but they didn't have the rights to it. It wasn't a Marvel property.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was playing the Schwarzenegger movie.
Yeah, the John Milius classic.
Yeah, I was playing Conan and Conan and the Destroyer and Red Sonja.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, this is cool. And everybody, we had customers come in and they enjoyed it and stuff like that, and they really liked it. And that was I had people sitting there watching the whole damn movies, and that's fine. I don't mind people being there. I've got game tables and stuff. You just pull up a chair and just sit there and watch the movie. That's fine with me. We just I don't mind stepping around people. They're customers. These are my friends. But get penalized for that. That's Conan related. Yeah, but it's not. It's not our Conan. So it's fuck. Yeah, it's like,
and it ends up costing you as a business owner money the next time you order.
It could. It could if I have enough accumulated penalties, it's like that, basically. But I got a letter, I got an email saying, after a recent evaluation, you failed to blah 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 blah, and it's like, and I write back and I say, oh, I pinky promise that I'll do better, I swear, and jerk off type crap. But anyway, yeah, I mean, it's as far as.
So do the reps call you, and like, does the Marvel rep call you and be like, hey, we got this new Captain Marvel book out. There's a #1 coming. You only ordered 4 copies. Storing your shot.
That's the diamond
Okay,
rep. I've got
like,
a Marvel rep I've not talked to probably in 10 years, but they make Diamond do it. They're the ones that sit back, with the hot poker, poking you in the ass. It's like,
say,
how come you only ordered 5 copies of this?
Or your size should be ordering at least 25.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh, why aren't we're really pushing? We really think that Iceman. We really think that X-Men Red is staple for the future at Marvel, and
you're missing out on an opportunity.
Really like to see you order 50 copies of X-Men Red, and I said I'd really love for somebody to come in and buy 50 copies of X-Men Red. I said, but the problem is I've only got 2 people. I've got 3 people that have it on their pull lists, and if I order 50 copies of it, that's going to be in the 50-cent bin. Oh no, you just need to market it better. You need to have it front and center at the store. It's like, it doesn't work. I tried that. I have documented results from this. Those books still ended up in the 50-cent bin. And no, you need to, and it's just round and round we go.
So a lot of times when you see like a picture of a modern comic shop, of the front door, the thing that you see right inside the front door is the diversity wall. Of all the crappy comic characters nobody buys. And I think people like honestly were like, wow, that shop must really want to promote that, but most likely they're being pressured into doing that.
Oh, of course they are. And here's the thing. Here's the thing with that. They make people with the diversity. The diversity cove, the little diversity cap. That you're talking, the little end cap you're talking about, like that. I don't have that. I just don't. It's like, these are not books that sell. I'll put them on the shelf if there's interest. I'll fill out customer folders. People that ask for it, I might get 1 or 2 extra copies. But I'm not going to fill out a whole end cap of this crap. So it's just not something. It's not something that's going to work. And then. My end cap right now is still Immortal Hulk. I've got my cutout. It's about 5 feet tall. I've got my 5-foot cutout, Immortal Hulk, and I've got the trade sitting there, and I've got the reprints. And then I've also got, over there next to that, we're still running the thing on J. Scott Campbell. For his variant covers, because I got in a bunch of those, ordered from his website, the reseller bundle. But and Black Cat's going to be big. That now you want to talk about a book that's really causing buzz. Black Cat #1 is probably going to outsell Marvel 1000 3-1.
Oh yeah?
Oh my God! I've had more interest in particular Black Cat #1 variants than I have of any book since Immortal Hulk.
Interesting.
So, yeah. Have you seen those J. Scott Campbell variants on that?
Mm-mm.
Oh, they look sick.
Oh my God, they're beautiful. I mean, they have that old-timey kind of, drugstore, I don't know what to think, like Victorian style, artwork. It's very antique looking, but kind of a burlesque kind of vibe to it. And but with the modern, with a more modern face, the way that Campbell does faces and details as far as her body, and it's like, wow, It's gonna be something else.
Interesting. I have a video I'm writing that's actually gonna be part of it, but I actually hadn't gotten to that part yet.
But yeah, I'll have at least 50, 60 pre-orders just on that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'll get 100. I'll probably get 100, 150 copies, counting all the variants. And I'll do my requisite, 25 copies from Campbell's, directly from Campbell. So
let's get back on the Marvel 1000 thing. Like I said earlier, I'm actually a bit out of the loop. I've been trying to keep up on social media and some of the news outlets on everything going out. I know I got tagged on a chain of a reaction to the announcement, and it seemed mostly negative. I know, Doc, you keep up with the stuff better than I do. What's been the general reaction? Is that?
I mean, it's overall disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
They released all those little promo pieces, and people were like, "Oh, you actually decided to open your wallet and hire people that for the past maybe 8 to 10 years you had let go, and because they cost too much, or because of issues you went and tried you tried to work out some of the issues, like when somebody saw JMS on there. I know Dominic asked about it in the chat, and JMS left because he hated. It was because of I think it was One More Day, and he hated how Quesada basically forced him into doing One More Day, and he left immediately afterwards and went to DC for a few years. And the fact that because we had seen I guess it was maybe a year ago, 6 months ago, I don't know, time doesn't work right for me anymore. There was I saw something where CB had went out and intentionally struck up a conversation with John Byrne to try to work out some of the issues between Byrne and Marvel. And people were thinking, oh, is he trying to woo John Byrne back? Because Byrne's a guy that hasn't really, he doesn't need to work, because he's got his Byrne kind of fanboys that pay him obscene amounts of money for commissions. We're talking high 4 digits, low to medium 5 digits for commissions. If you get somebody throwing $10,000 every 2 weeks at you, $5,000 to $10,000 for a commission, you're making pretty good money every month. You're making $20,000, $30,000 a month. Mm-hmm. Without having to take on regular, that kind of regular monthly grind of a comic.
You're not under the gun.
Yeah, you're not under the gun. So yeah, and considering the fact that when Byrne left Marvel, he was making stupid money per issue, like legitimately stupid money per issue, and I think even Liefeld recently said that at one point when he offered Byrne $120,000 per issue to write something. I don't remember what it was. And Byrne said no. It wasn't worth it for him. 120 grand an issue wasn't worth it for him back then. And
right.
So he probably has money.
Oh, he's got stupid money. Assuming he didn't blow it all, but he's got good money. He was a guy that could sell 500,000 copies on name alone for a very, very, very long time. He's the guy that when he went to Dark Horse and was working at Dark Horse, made Dark Horse into the company that it was for all of the 90s. And So Byrne's a guy that still sells. And when people saw that he had tried to work out the issues, now nothing had kind of come of that when it comes to new work from Byrne and Marvel. But, people thought, oh, well, all these creators that Marvel had basically given the finger to, and that, reciprocably gave the finger to Marvel on the way out the door, like JMS. Maybe he had been working behind the scenes trying to work shit out with them. But then, and maybe we were going to get like a new mini series, or hell, even the possibility that some of these things were old projects that Marvel had bought, these scripts here, pages there, and they were going to put together something, for new launch to make new product. People thought, okay, maybe that's what it was. And then we got this whatever the hell there you want to call Marvel 1000. We got this fake milestone that was unearned that gives everybody 1 to 2 pages, and everybody just sits there and looks around like, wait, that's what you were hinting at?
Yeah, even like the comics people making fun of C.B. Cebulski on this one.
Yeah,
you fucked up.
Yeah, it's it's like some dude, that talks all this big game and, gets into bed with this girl and, blows it in 8 seconds. And you're like, oh, that was a lot of buildup for absolutely nothing. And he just blue balled the entire comic buying public.
He did, because you guys were getting so excited in the chats. I didn't even know what was going on. I was like, man, I need to read this, but I'm here with the baby. I can't do that. And I was like, man, it sounds like this is going to be amazing. And then when I finally saw the article, I was like, oh, these guys.
Well, they teased it in a really interesting way. I have to give credit into some ways. Like when they showed that little triptych thing with all the names, I was like, oh, were they doing something in August? Are they like going to revamp and get some new books? And they're bringing people like Walt Simonson is going to have a book again. What could he be doing? Will they put him on Thor? Maybe. Like, I was getting excited.
Yeah.
And then when I saw what it was, the big reveal, like, ta-da! You're like, oh, and it's like a whoopee cushion sound. You're just like, what is this?
Yeah.
It's almost like this is an April Fool's joke. Like, this is what you do on April Fools. You do this thing and you reveal this and be like, oh, Marvel 1000. And you're just like, oh, okay. But it's not. This is real. You're just like, oh my God, the top comic company in the world is doing this.
Like, you guys ever watch Jimmy Kimmel when they do you tell the kids that you gave their Halloween candy away the next day?
Oh yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
This is what that was to comic nerds.
That's a great example.
What?
Yeah.
It's fucking nothing.
Yeah. We just all, like, it was like the entire I mean, and hey, if there's one thing that managed to unite most of comicdom, it was the way that this was just a giant fart that they dropped in the middle of the room. And everybody's like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah. They just crop dusted all of comic.
Yeah, I mean,
it was great seeing it from my perspective, because I literally didn't know it. I was like, seeing all this buzz, like everyone's excited, and I finally figured out what it was. I was like, oh, you sucker.
It's funny because, like, what was it, like a week ago, 2 weeks ago? I don't remember when CB made the original comment about, oh, it's about time we sell 1 million copies again or whatever. And I made this like smart ass response to him in my tweets, and I was being like, oh, you mean you're gonna like follow in Jim Shooter's footsteps and spend 10 to 15 years rebuilding your brand and putting good writers and artists and doing everything for the long-term success, and just kind of like throwing that in his face. and
Nope, psych.
and then
Yeah,
and then
like maybe
they
did it.
released promotional material, and I was like, oh, holy shit, they might be doing this. They're bringing
Yeah.
all these big guns back. Like, oh my god, I'm gonna have egg on my face. And then nope, of course not. Of course.
Yeah, like, I mean, how do you manage to screw this up? You get all these people that are able to that you get to do work again for the company, and you manage to fuck it up that bad with the thing that nobody wanted. Nobody wanted
wants
this.
this.
Nobody
I mean,
wants this.
Spider-Man 1000 will legitimately be here somewhat soon, right? They just said,
No, we're still. I mean, they're only a little over 800, so they're at about 820. And so
oh, okay,
unless it,
it's like
so unless
a
it
long
goes,
time.
yeah, so unless it goes weekly again, you're looking at another decade plus.
Yeah, it's like 8 years or something because it's just bi-weekly.
Yeah, it's bi-weekly right now, and it has to keep up that bi-weekly schedule. So you're looking at, 26 issues a year divided by 180-ish issues. What's that work out to? About 7 years?
Over 8.
Yeah, you're looking at 7 years. I don't think Marvel's here in its current iteration in 7 years.
Yeah, maybe there.
I think they're at the point of licensing at that point.
Yeah.
And like I saw this, and everybody, like, at the same time, just groaned.
Yeah,
Well,
this reeks of desperation, like I was saying before. Just, it's like when they rebooted Amazing Spider-Man, it was like, here's issue 800, yay, big celebration. 801, now issue 1, big. It's like that was just flushing their brand down the toilet. Like, they just knew they weren't going to hit 1,000, so let's get a number 1 in.
Well, they are.
We're not going to be here long enough.
Legacy number.
So
they're still counting the issues.
yeah.
Oh, of course. If they are here long enough, the numbers will revert so they can cash in.
Oh yeah,
They'll cash in on 900 if they make it.
Absolutely. Probably
Then they'll find a way to
850.
reboot it back to number 1, so then they can. That's so silly.
So,
DC did that twice with Detective, didn't they? They rebooted to a number 1, and they did it again, and then they're like, "Oh, we're getting close to 1,000, so we got to play that up."
Yeah, but DC's only done it. They've only done 2 legitimate renumberings of their big books. They're big long-term books. Because Detective didn't reboot until New 52, and then it rebooted again at Rebirth. That's it. That's the and same with Batman. Superman has rebooted a couple of times, but Batman, Detective, and Action never rebooted.
Okay, so it was nice that Marvel could unite the comics community in disappointment, but there's a few other things going on right now that are a little bit more controversial. And right now, there's a weird thing going on between Patch Zurcher and EBS. I am so out of the loop. I don't even know what's happening, but I know it's happening.
It's the Patrick Zurcher virtue signal. The oh God, I need to make my mortgage. So he puts up this every time the dude runs out of work. I mean, his wife works full time. I vaguely remember this from when he and I actually were on speaking terms a long time ago, because when he was doing his just like, tell me what to draw and I'll draw something cool like that. Yeah, that was a great follow. It was good. He was good interaction. He was and then Mark Waid happened and he lost his fucking mind. Whether or not he liked Zach before then, he kind of just kept his mouth shut about it. It didn't matter to him. Like he just kind of stayed out of it. But then he realized, oh shit, I'm not getting work. I better virtue signal. and he started going on this regular like spurg out thing where he'd start virtue signaling and yelling about stuff and people, and then he
Nazis everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And then he became like giant anti-Comicsgate, and then he went silent again for a while, and fine, whatever. He was getting
him some crumbs. I think they threw him some crumbs at that.
They did. They gave him some crumbs at DC.
Right.
Yeah, he was on the Terrifics for a couple issues. He killed the sales of Sideways. I know, Ash, you're going to disagree with that, but I a lot of people just didn't come back after.
No, I don't disagree. Are you talking about Silencer?
Silencer. Sorry.
No, I was one of them. I dropped Silencer because of Patch.
Yeah.
And then like 2 or 3 issues later, like he was gone. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll pick this back up. And then I went and bought the Zercher issues and back issues, so I didn't feel like I was giving DC any money, but I was giving my store money. And then, of course, then they announced a cancellation, and I was like, "F you, DC!" Like, but no, I was one of them. I was like, "I'm not buying it." Patrick Zercher, done.
Maybe it was somebody else that disagreed with me on that one then. But yeah, I think he kind of killed sales on a lot of the stuff but now you notice though, now he's getting work from Marvel again, because I don't think he's on an exclusive. He's been doing covers for
Sword of Conan coming up.
Well, he's got Savage Sword of Conan coming up. He's been doing covers for Prisoner X, for that Age of X-Man book with Vita Ayala, I think. I think she's the one that's writing that one.
Terrible.
Everything with Age of X is fucking awful. The only one that's actually relatively decent is Next Gen. That one's okay. No, honestly, I don't even like Nightcrawler. I don't think it's very good.
Mustard and bigotry.
Yeah. And but now and then he got a spot on. You notice he got a spot on Marvel 1000.
Yeah.
All of a sudden he comes out and starts spurting out about Ethan. I don't know what the hell it is. I think it's just pure jealousy at this point.
It is. It is. Because he thinks that he deserves that. He thinks he deserves something. He's not the person that went out and put his name out there and built a following and built a successful YouTube channel and went out and cultivated a fan base and did untold hundreds and hundreds of hours of self-promotion and everything like that to make this $1 million. No, he
just has tens of thousands of hours of content that he's created.
Right.
Yeah. And you know what? If Zercher would have kept up his hey, tell me what to draw thing and just stayed with that, he could have not even bothered acknowledging Comicsgate. He didn't have to say anything pro. He didn't have to say anything anti. He could have just drawn. And if he would have just been the guy that draws the stuff that you suggest to him, he could have started building that following. He was starting to. And then he went on a massive freak out. And not only did he block a couple thousand of his followers, but he killed any growth that he was getting. In growing himself as a brand, because he could have remember Ethan started his YouTube and stuff. His first thing was a Twitter live drawing video where he had his phone he duct taped it onto he duct taped it onto a lamp above his drawing desk and just sat there and drew Dawnbreaker. It was cool. It had a couple hundred people watching. That was it. There was maybe 50 or 100 people. And then he's like, well, maybe I'll go to YouTube. And then he started doing just YouTube drawing videos where he'd sit there and just kind of bullshit and look at the chat every so often and talk to people and talk about what he's drawing. What he did that video on how that under $100 at, to build your entire drawing kit at, like Joann Fabrics or some shit, or Michael's. And he was starting to build, he was already starting to build that as just the I make comics here, let me show you how guy. And Zurcher was starting to do the same thing. And then he just spurred out, and the people that he would have been appealing to are the people that Ethan appeals to. I mean, at least some of the people that Ethan appeals to, like the way that Ethan appeals to me. Like I sit there and I kind of roll my eyes at some of the shit that Ethan does, but when he does when he's just talking about comics and drawing and making comics and how he wants to help save comics in his way with, getting people excited for shit, I like that Ethan. When he goes on to his, ranty stuff, it gets a little boring, but whatever. But Zurcher had the chance to do the same thing and just tripped over his own dick. So, fuck him.
Yep.
Yeah, I got nothing but contempt for that guy. I will actively promote people not to support his work. Anytime I see him on a project, I will tell people, just nope, stay away from it. You can't behave like that.
Yeah, I purposely. Yeah.
You can have your personal views and not like people, right? But be professional. Just Zach made a cool, our boy Zach made a cool video just recently, and he's echoed something that I've been saying for a long time. I kind of been quiet on it lately, but is like, be like Brian Hill. That guy is like a model citizen, to say it like he's a perfect example of like how a pro should be online. Yeah. And I talked about this in my Batman the Outsiders video that I did too. Shameless plug. And if you don't want to be like that, if you don't want to engage people and deal with all the, all the stress and all the stuff and be positive, and then just don't engage. Just bite your tongue. It doesn't take any effort to not type into Twitter mean things. Like, yes.
And Brian, you know what? I guarantee Brian and I would probably disagree on like 90% of things political.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But guess what? He's one of my favorite pros to follow. He's the most reasonable person. He always is positive. Even when he's talking about negative things, he's trying to find a way to look at it positively. And or how to make it positive in the future. And what, we might not agree on how to get there, but we both agree on the destination.
Here's an interesting thing here. Patch Searcher, looking his Social Blade stuff. He has 15,800 followers. Okay, this is a supposed, quote, top tier supposed artist within the comics business. 15,800 followers. Last year he had 14,900 followers at the same time last year. He's gained 1,000 followers, just 1,000 followers, during the biggest explosion of comics as far as in movies. At the same time, you want to know what Ethan grew from in 1 year?
Oh Jesus.
Tripled.
Yeah.
It's, let me go back to Ethan's page here. So there's so much, there has to be jealousy. It's got to be jealousy.
It's jealousy. But I think it's also echo chamber. I think these guys just sit in the room and smell their own shit for so long that they stop smelling the shit. Have you ever been to a person's house that like has a lot of cats and they're maybe not the best at taking out the litter boxes and stuff, and they don't smell it, and you walk in and you're like, whoa, cats.
Yeah, you go nose blind.
They don't realize they're just so full of their own self-righteousness and thinking and they're constantly reaffirming themselves, and they block anyone who would disagree with them is blocked. So their worldview is like, yep, everyone agrees with me. Obviously, this is the norm. They don't engage in any diversity of thought. So I believe part of it's jealousy, but I also believe part of it is just their worldview is so mutated by just sitting in this echo chamber where everyone is just regurgitating the same shit, and no one will ever disagree with each other, because that will get you ostracized from your society that you partake in. It's sick and weird.
Here you go. This is a good one here. Okay, Zurcher, 900 followers in 1 year. He's gained 900 followers in 1 year, about 940, something like that. Ethan had the same number of followers. They had almost identical number of followers at the same time last year. And now Ethan has 37,000.
Mhm.
So, yeah, 2.5 times the rate there. And not even counting the YouTube. God, YouTube has been absolutely ballistic over the last year. So, you know, and Zurcher thinks of himself in the same tier as Ethan Van Sciver. That's the reason why I'm sniping at him right now.
There's a reason he was a fill-in artist on his book.
Yeah.
Yeah, Zurcher's not even that great of an artist. Like,
He's good
that's
enough
another
not
thing.
off fans when Ethan goes on a break.
Yeah,
But
he, you know what? I'll be honest. I used to like Patrick's art when he was on Cable and Deadpool, but as he's gotten more and more and more into the 3D modeling and digital art, his art has become so lifeless and bland that I don't, you know.
there are only so many people like Clayton Crane that can do the digital art and make it look amazing.
Yeah, because if you're using
Like
a bunch
skill.
of, yeah, if you're using, you know, like Art Germ can do it. You
Stephanie
know,
Hans.
Stephanie Hans can do it. There's a couple other ones that I've seen that aren't bad. You know what? Willis Portacio has gone all digital. I've literally barely noticed any difference in his art.
I couldn't tell that at all. I just read
Yeah.
his Major X. Really cool, actually.
You know what? The only reason I even knew is because he every so often will post drawing videos on Instagram. And I found out he had switched to digital. I'm like, whoa, I can't tell because his style never changed and he never went to relying on 3D models for that. So yeah, he's, you know what, that as Zurcher went to more and more and more digital and 3D modeling, his stuff got so bland and boring. And it's literally generic comic book artist A at this point.
So,
you know,
what exactly were his allegations or his direct criticisms at EVS? Like, what was he trying to say?
he didn't have any. He didn't have any allegations. He didn't have anything. He just said, you know, he just decided to be a douchebag to him and wish him that his
that
he lost his hands in an animal attack at the zoo or some shit. I'm like, what the fuck kind of 6-year-old nonsense is this?
Some toddler.
I hope the next announcement we get from Ethan Van Sciver is that he lost his drawing hand in a freak zoo accident.
Yeah, that's really weird. Because, you know, those guys have to know each other. I mean, they both worked on Hal Jordan and the Green Lantern Corps. Like I said, he was his fill-in artist. I'm assuming
Ethan hired him.
Yeah, I'm assuming they have some type of relationship. That's like really weird.
Yeah, Ethan recommended him as the fill-in. You know, he owes Ethan, for if anything. So it's just like, oh God.
So did Ethan take the high road, or did he blast him and make him look like a douchebag?
He blasted him.
He blasted him. Yeah, he I mean, he didn't go as hard. See, honestly, Ethan just went with the very kind of low-hanging fruit instead of really hitting him where it hurts, which is you can't sell anything. No one wants to buy anything with your name on it. Sorry. Get better.
Yeah,
And
he absolutely could have been like, says my fill-in artist.
Yeah.
the guy that does my work when I'm on vacation.
Yeah.
Whatever
like,
you do, buddy.
yeah. You know, it's like, oh, great. The guy that can't hold my jock strap is now criticizing me. All right, my backup, you know, my third string quarterback. Just go away. I think he could have done that and basically said, you know, oh, you and Jamal Liefeld are you know, I'm surprised you're not better friends. You both have a reverse career.
Yeah.
Because Zurcher went from being the regular artist on Cable and Deadpool for like 40 some issues straight. He had a regular gig to being on like lower and lower and lower tier books, and now he's a fill-in. Hey, sucks that your career went in reverse. Get better.
You know what's weird about Jamal Liefeld is I see his work on like on those Kwanzaa books, and it's absolute trash. But when I saw his work on Ahoy Comics, it's actually really good.
Well, that's because they actually work whenever they have somebody looking over their shoulder, and they have editors that require a degree of certain quality from them.
I couldn't believe it was the same person. I was like, we have like a pretty damn good artist here. This is like some Tumblr shit. Like it's hard to reconcile it.
Of course, knowing Kwanzaa, he might have wanted that grungy, ugly, you know, half-ass look. So there's no telling.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Jamal Liefeld's stuff when he was on Firestorm back in the day. I was like, oh, I like that art. And it's like his art's got progressively worse as he's gotten older.
Maybe he's one of the ones that switched over to digital and it didn't work out for him.
I don't know. Did you guys ever see Jamal Liefeld's book that he did for Ahoy for a short minute?
That's what I'm talking about, the Chrome Earth.
The Other Earth?
Yeah, like that first, I only got the first book because I couldn't find any of the rest of them, but it was a really, really good book, and his art was solid. I mean, writing aside, I was like, man, this is a guy who's got talent. He's got, you know, skin color privilege in the modern industry that he could leverage. That he's got all the makings for success, and he's just throwing it away. And now he's writing or drawing for a book that most shops aren't even ordering. I mean, I had to bend over backwards to try to find comics, and I was like, forget it. This isn't worth the effort for Jamal Liefeld. And I found myself, literally, that was what was happening. I was like, holy shit, Eric. I'm like, I'm putting this much effort for a Jamal Liefeld book. Stop.
It's crazy. The Wrong Earth is on hiatus, so he can draw that stupid, what is it, white? Yeah.
So he can draw that racist anti. You know.
Yeah, and he's tossing that away. This is a book he could be building his legitimacy back. I mean, Zach gave it a really glowing review. I gave it a great review. Not that I'm anyone big or anything, but you build off of this, of people that they're supposedly your enemies, were definitely not in your corner, but if they're giving you praise, you just take it quietly. You don't have to retweet my tweets. You don't have to say anything. Just take it and just let your fandom base and let the bad negativity go away. And you could be something, but they can't. They have to just keep funneling or building on this victimhood, and that, you know, there's all these racist, bigoted fans. That's the problem. And, you know, why are you going on this racist white book? You're just destroying your career over stupid ideology for a fandom that doesn't exist.
Right. Exactly. So they can try to cultivate more racist ideology.
It's crazy because, you know, my personal opinion, like, The Wrong Earth is one of the 10 best comic books available today. Like, it's shocking that Ahoy even has one that's that good, and they actually had to stop it. They could just go do some trash. That's
I
no
mean, I
one's
was
ever.
literally I was going shop after shop, and then going online, and I worked harder to try to get copies of that book than I have for any comic book since I've been back in comics. And it made me reflect and go, oh my gosh, like a month prior to this, I would have never, if you would have said, Ash, you're going to do this for a Jamal Igle book, I would have laughed at you. I'd have been like, not Jamal Igle. But it was legitimately that good. And he had kept his mouth shut for a long enough time that I was like, you know what? This is a good book. I will try. And then it was like so much effort. I was like, oh my God. I mean, I'll do this for like legitimately, people who deserve it. Why am I doing this for Igle? Like, he doesn't deserve this much. And so, like, he lost a fan, not because his work wasn't good, but because he made himself such an idiot that, I would have been the guy who would have dug hard for this book. And then I would have, like what I'm doing with Hawkman, I'm constantly talking about it. I go to the comic book shop and I tell them, are you guys promoting Hawkman? It's so good. And then like the people behind the counter are like, really? I don't even read it. It's like, I'm like, read it. Tell the people that come in, try Hawkman, like I'll promote books. Not like I said, I'm not like I'm anything huge, but I am a person. And if you can get 1,000 people like me to feel the same way about your book, then they promote it and they get other people to feel that same way. And next thing you know, you've got word of mouth, and your book that was selling, 10,000 copies maybe can double and sell 20,000 copies. And once you get to there, then all of a sudden, the bigger mainstream starts to take attention. I'm like, why is this book growing? And you just build off of that. And it might take a year or two, but this industry is small enough that that's how you can work it. I mean, look what a guy named Zach, who was doing tech support, did out of his garage, did $500,000 out of a comic book. Or not his garage, his bedroom. I mean, there's an audience out there, and if you don't have to necessarily work that hard. If you're talented, people will find you. Like Brian Hill, I discovered him because he was on Twitter. I never read a single one of his books, but I was like, dude, this guy's he's in comics. Who is this guy? I wrote him. I was like, hey, Brian, what books do you write? And he wrote back some books. I was like, I don't read any of those. And then, like a month later, I saw him tweet that he was going to do Detective Comics. And I said, that's a book I'll read. So I went and tried it. Yeah. And then I became a Brian Hill fan, all because of behavior.
Yeah. You know what? I heard, I wasn't familiar with him. I heard Zach name drop him once about being, a great writer and a guy that's been kind of working his way through, but he actually came to comics from Hollywood, and he's not using it as a stepping stone. He's using it as an extra creative outlet, and I'm cool with that. And then, I'm like, okay, well, I'll give him a shot. And I think I saw that he was going to be doing Aphrodite and and Cyberforce for Top Cow. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm looking for an excuse to get back into some of the Top Cow stuff. I loved their stuff before. I was never big into their like more supernatural side with like the Witchblade and Darkness and stuff like that. But I loved Fathom before Michael left, and I really liked Cyberforce back in the day. And it was okay when it first started, and then it got really good around the time that Brian Hoagland and I think Brian Augustine did a little bit, and Chris Claremont came on and did a little bit. And it kind of made it this kind of spiritual successor to Claremont's 80s X-Men. And I'm like, this is dope. And then it ended. And then it's had some rebirths since then, but none of them really stuck. And then I saw Brian Hill was doing one, and I'm like, yes, okay, I'm behind this. I'm in from issue 1. And you know what? Both of them were really good.
95 was awesome.
Yeah, Aphrodite 5 was excellent. And I really liked Cyberforce, even though it was kind of a reboot. But it was like a reboot that made sense because it had time travel involved. So it wasn't like, hey, we're just going to scrap everything from before. And you know what? Ever since then, everything that his name is on, I'm like, you know what? I'll give it a chance.
Mhm.
Um,
Try to read American Carnage.
you know what? I have all 6 issues sitting in my to read box. I haven't read them yet because I mean, you guys saw. I think I posted it on Twitter. Like my to read box is it's basically a short box and a half at this point. I am so far behind.
American Carnage is a book that I have no interest in reading, but I think it's a good book to bring up because it's okay that people can write books with topics that you're not interested in reading. And I use this as an example because I'm a huge fan of Brian Hill. I want to read what he writes, but I'm okay that he can write things that I'm not interested in. And it doesn't change my opinion of the author because again, he's so professional and there's no reason why he has to write everything just for me. Like if he wants to go explore a storyline about racism in America and FBI and all that stuff, more power to you. And I think we need more of that. And again, good behavior means we don't care. Like you have so much freedom as a writer and an artist to do what you want to do. Just respect the people who pay you money for your work.
And you know what? And Brian's one of those guys that if you go to him and you say, "Hey, I don't like this," he's like, "Okay, well, here's what I was trying to do. Maybe I just didn't hit that. And if you try looking at it again from this perspective, you'll like it. But if not, I'll be doing this that is much more like this later." And hey, awesome, cool. I'll give that a shot instead.
Yeah, he definitely, one of the things I love about him as a creator, as far as actually his work, he feels a little amateur in some ways when I read his work, like his Batman stuff. I can feel like, okay, he's not an industry veteran, he's not a Chuck Dixon or anything, but that's okay because you can feel like he really tries when you read his books, even though he might miss on certain areas. Like Wes did a really good review, echoed a lot of my sentiments about the Batman and Outsiders. Those misses are kind of easy to overlook because you can feel that he really does care about the material he's doing and is legitimately trying to make a good piece. It never feels like it's just lazy, like he just is uninterested. It just feels like, oh, in 10 years, if he were to write this book, it would be way better because he'll be way better. This just feels like he's just making a rookie mistake. And
I heard him talking on Twitter one time, and people were asked, like, what do you do when you get stuck on dialogue? And he explained, like, when he gets stuck on Batman dialogue, he puts a towel over his shoulders and he hunches on a chair like he's like the Dark Knight, like on a building, and he starts talking. And I was like, oh, that's pretty funny. That probably
It's actually awesome. Like it's like
so rad.
It's like method acting for writers.
He's like, I have to get the character and see if it sounds right, coming from the character. So he puts a towel on.
I forget what it was.
Well, whatever he's doing, it works because that I think is his strongest point. If I were to say something about Brian to try to sell anyone who's listening on him as a writer, is he has an instinctive feel for voices on characters that even if the plot is kind of just okay, you just enjoy reading it because the characters feel right. Everything that comes out of their mouth, it never feels forced or fake or cheesy. I just love it.
I'm trying to remember which writer it was that said whenever he was writing Batman that he would purposely stub his big toe, before if he's having block or something like that, he'd go and like jam his foot into the wall, and walk around with a limp, and kind of get an idea of
be a little
Batman's
pain.
bad mood. He's like he just purposely, physically put himself in a bad mood, so he could actually write Batman. I can't remember who that was. It might have been gosh, who was that? I think it was Miller. I think it was Frank Miller.
Dominic Powell brought up in the comments. He also brought up Blake Northcott as an example of a great creator that's excellent at interacting with the customers, and I couldn't agree with that more. She's some instances I think she's better than Brian. She's really funny and she's really interactive, and she'll actually say stuff that's a bit more controversial, and then she'll back away from it. Doc, have you read any of Blake's stuff?
I have, actually. I really enjoy her work. I bought her North Valley Grimoire when it was when it was a Kickstarter. I bought her Executive Assistant Iris. I enjoyed that. I didn't get her Fathom because that was before I knew who she was. I got her those couple of Aspen Visions that she just did. I really want to see more of her stuff. Absolutely. Because she's incredibly pleasant. There's a reason why her and Brian, I've noticed, interact a lot. I think like her and Brian Hill are they interact a lot because I think they're just sitting there like, why the hell are we the normies?
Yeah, they're like the outsiders from the industry.
Yeah. I mean, because because Brian's a Hollywood guy that came to comics. Blake's a novelist that came to comics. Neither of them were recruited from, they just wanted to do comics. So they're like, hey, let's come in and do some comics. And, Blake got work at Aspen. Brian got work at Top Cow because his first stuff was, I think, Postal.
I read Romulus.
I didn't read Romulus.
It's actually pretty interesting. You can tell he really likes Star Wars because it's like the character Romulus is almost like Luke. There's hands getting cut off and all kinds of great stuff that's like directly right out of the original trilogy. So I actually tweeted about him one day. I was like, hey man, I just finished your 5 series of Romulus. I was like, you really like Star Wars, don't you? And he's like, I think about the trilogy every day. I was like, all right, there you go. So he really likes. I think he's great with interacting with people. He'll always tell you like where he gets his inspiration, and I think that's awesome. I wish more creators were like that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think a lot of the ones that would be are afraid. One of the things, another thing I admire Brian about is he's kind of got a fearlessness to him. He doesn't speak out necessarily against some of the crap that's going on in the industry, but he doesn't let them censor him either. I think there are creators out there that would be a little bit more like him and positive and interact with the fans. But because there's so many of us evil comic skaters out there, that if they were to ever be positive with, someone like me or Zach or, then they would get chastised and, you'd have the Red Sparrow come and, shame, walk of shame. And it would just be, so they don't. And then they'd have to do their virtual signal, like, when we saw Scott Schneider, it was so cringeworthy like 6 months ago, and they got Scott to come out and say all this stuff. And I was just like, what are you doing, dude?
Do you guys remember when Tamara Bonvillain kind of called out Brian Hill on Twitter for following Bounding into Comics, I believe it was?
Yeah. And he
Very
basically
vaguely
said, I don't care.
He said, I don't like people telling me what to do.
Yeah.
Brian is so like quintessentially Gen X. He is exactly like all of us Gen Xers. We're like, you know what we don't like? We don't like fucking authority.
No.
Yeah.
That's
because I don't
like.
agree with Bounding into Comics, but I don't like people telling me I can't follow them. I was like,
yeah, and it sucks that I hate the race card, and I hate no one should be judged on the color of their skin or thing, but he does have in a sick sort of way, he has kind of an advantage of his skin color that makes him a little bit more Teflon against some of the bullshit stuff that the SJWs would try to pull. If someone like Scott doesn't fall in line, they can try to make all sorts of claims. Like, look what they've done to Ethan Van Sciver.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a Nazi, but Brian, being a dude of color, they got to walk a little bit more carefully, because if they push too hard against a black guy, then all of a sudden they look like, so like Christopher Priest for years was able to just tell the industry, F off. I'm not writing your black characters. I'm not being your token writer, until they finally were like, oh, we'll give you a white guy to write, like, he's cool. Yeah, I'm a writer. Respect me for who I am. And Brian isn't quite aggressive about it, but he's got that same level of like, no, I'm a writer. I don't give a shit about it, and treat me with respect. I'll respect you. And there's a lot of people in the industry that can't do that, though, and it sucks.
Yeah.
Well, they have to toe the line. If they don't toe the line, then they don't get the next book. It's
and Blake has a little bit of that same insulation for being a woman. So
she's Canadian, so if somebody's like, you're getting too political, she's like, I'm Canadian, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen her play it a couple of times. It's perfect.
Yeah. I mean, and she does the same thing, like, talking about like finance and stuff. She's like, I don't know though, we're Canadian, so that's like $1 million here. Yeah, so she's cool. Blake and Brian they're like normies. That's the thing. I think that they're also they're a little fearless, because neither of them really need to be in comics. They're there because they want to be. They don't need to. Brian could go back, and I mean, he's still working on the Titans TV show. Remember that.
And he's still got a movie project coming up too.
He's got,
directorial debut.
I believe so. Blake can keep just doing novels. She doesn't have to give a shit about comics. So if they chase them both out of the industry, I get, plus the fact that, I mean, well, that, and the other thing is, I mean, remember, I believe Blake has a project coming up with, Mitch and Betty Breitweiser, because her and, she was out there with, Kelsey Shannon and Butch Juice or Butch Geis and Mitch and Betty. So I have a sneaking suspicion that they're cooking up something over there.
Yeah, it sounds like they have a new like company coming up.
I believe so.
That's what Mitch was talking about today. I believe I actually saw that.
I haven't seen anything from him today, but I saw some stuff from him yesterday where he had a logo that looked like it was going to be, maybe a corner box logo for the company with the rooster, that red rooster. And, talking about signing papers and legal stuff. And yeah, I got a feeling he's incorporating and going to be doing a publishing company. And honestly, you know what? I think if Mitch ends up as the guy running the publishing company, you could see a lot of doors open for a lot of normies, like normies in the industry that are just tired of playing stupid games.
Plus, he's got a good temperament for something like that. He doesn't take bait very often.
No, Mitch is about the most even-tempered dude on the planet.
Yep. I've seen people bait him for like months at a time, and he never said one thing to anybody. So it's nice. I'm hoping, finally somebody from, the Comics Gate are finally actually going to have their own label that maybe gets distributed through Diamond. That's like the next big step in my mind. What do you think that's the next big step as well, Doc?
I believe so, actually. Yeah. I don't think they were going to put Peter Simeti in that position. I don't think Peter was in the position to to be that guy. I think they were offering the opportunity to AP to be that company. AP, did their, whatever choice they made there. There's not a lot of people that are going to necessarily want to get in bed with them at this point because they feel that, okay, well, they can be bullied out of doing business. Mitch has industry connections. He's got a lot of people that like him, regardless of the weirdos. He's probably capitalized well enough, between Mitch and Betty. Because honestly, you know what? What would be really interesting, and this is just a complete, total speculation, absolutely nothing to behind it. Seeing Lee Weeks do some work over there because Lee and Betty are close, and seeing total speculation. Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips potentially take Criminal that way. Because remember, Betty's worked with Ed and Sean a lot.
Yeah, and they did Killer Be Killed.
They did Killer Be Killed. They did Velvet. They did, I think, the Fade Out. She was on it with them. So they've got a long history of working together. The only thing she hasn't worked on them with recently was that All My Heroes Are Junkies, whatever the hell that thing was called.
Man, I remember that.
And I think I don't think she got let go from that project. I think she said, I'm busy working on, Red Rooster and upcoming with the Futurists, because Butch has been already starting to do work on that. So I think that I think she dipped out on that, on doing that one, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them all working together again in the near future. And if you could bring a book like Criminal over that way, you bring a book by something done by Lee Weeks over that way, you start looking at, not only do you have the Comicsgate guys that are coming in, but you also have the normie pros that kind of add an air of, no, this is not just a Comicsgate publisher. We're just publishing stuff that it will sell. That's possible. I don't know.
So I think this is a good segue to should be our last topic. I know, Doc, you finally read Graveyard Shift, right?
I did.
And I finally received mine when I was in the hospital with the wife and the new baby, and I read it myself. What are your overall thoughts on Graveyard Shift by John Malin and Poulter?
Mark Poulton.
Yeah.
I liked it, but it really could have benefited, kind of in the same way that Jawbreakers could have benefited from more space. Like,
yes,
it really needed. It was very dense. It needed to breathe more because it was a lot of this happened and this happened and this happened and this happened. There wasn't a lot of chance to explore it. Both of them needed to breathe more.
It's like 6 words in one book.
Yes, because there was a lot of story they could have explored. And additionally, so an editor to come in and kind of put it in a different order, like the way that they told the story. I don't know if he was intending to tell it so kind of non-linearly, but there was flashbacks within flashbacks, and jumps back to the present, and you're not sure if it's the present of the flashback or the present of the present of the present, and it was a little jarring. But I think if they could have just edited it a little bit, just to reorder some of the pages, it would have been a much better book. Like, how people will do like the ultimate Star Wars cut where you start with episode, 1, or start with episode 4, and then you jump back to episode 1, and then episode 2, and then you skip episode 2 and you go to episode 3, that kind of thing. I don't remember what that ultimate watch order for Star Wars, what the actual order was, but it's like if they would have done it that way, if they would have just reordered some of the pages, it would have been a much, much better book. But story-wise, it had a great idea. I love the concept behind it.
The art's really good too.
The art's amazing. They made rules for their universe. And the rules for their universe is that all of the Universal monsters never existed as film.
Mm-hmm.
They're not mythology, and they're not film. They're new ideas. They stuck with that the whole way through. And I think honestly, the most unbelievable part of that is that anyone would vote for somebody named President Van Helsing. Like that's the most unbelievable part, that anybody would vote for a guy named Van Helsing for. We did vote for a guy named Van Buren, but that was a long time ago.
Era.
Yeah, it was a very different era.
Like one of my some of it was confusing. Like they try to tell 5 single issues of story in 48 pages.
Yes.
So it's condensed too much. Like there's one point where they're attacking Congress, and it turns out they're all vampires and stuff, and you're like, how does anyone know that Congress is vampires? Like, when was that established?
Yes. Yeah. Like if they would have, as I say, it needed a lot more room to breathe.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the things I'm noticing about the Indiegogo model, where you're releasing 48 pages of story like twice a year, is they're trying to cram in like 5 to 6 months worth of story into 2 books worth of content. You know what I mean? There's not enough real estate for the information that they're actually presenting. Same thing happened with
spread too far apart. I mean, like you were talking about earlier, there's not enough carryover there. I mean, people like at least a bi-monthly book. I mean, you're jamming all this information, into an 80-page or 48-page, graphic novel. People aren't, of course, people can go back and reread and everything like that, but you lose that flow. So,
to a degree, I feel like this is a little bit of a backlash against the decompression model that the mainstream has done, where and be honest, even stuff like like the Netflix shows have done, where they only have 2 issues worth of story or 4 episodes worth of content, and they spread it out into 6 issues or 13 episodes or whatever. And this is almost the polar opposite, where it's hyper compression. And that's too much. You got to find that medium again. I mean, I understand that you're trying to do, doing a monthly book is a grind, and it's not really doable on the Indiegogo Kickstarter model. But neither is hyper compression. So you can't leave it decompressed. You can't leave it, and you can't really do hyper compression. So you need to find that balance, and maybe just accept the fact that you're going to have to do 60 pages as the standard. 60 pages as the standard minimum. 60 to 80 pages have to be your standard, and you have to plan it so that it's, you have breaks at what would be issue 3 or issue 5 that would be good stopping points. And because 48 pages is too short. It's simply too short. And even if you hit stretch goals and add pages and blah blah blah, you know what? I liked the way that they did it with that Zach did it with Jawbreakers, where he added the other stories from the other Jawbreakers story, the God King story. I like that. But some of the other ones where they're like, okay, well, we'll add 10 pages, a 10-page backup story from this other artist and this other writer. Okay, that's great. But is your main story still, is it not hyper compressed? Is it not decompressed? And does it have a good stopping point wherever the hell you're stopping?
Yeah, it needs to be one arc
yes.
contained in the book.
Yes.
It's hard to do that with 48 pages unless you're Chris Claremont. Then you can do it in 20. Yeah.
And even that, though, it could never be a big story. It would always have to be one of his. Yeah, it would have to be his A plot for that issue. But the B plot and the C plot, you need to have a B plot and a C plot in there for the future, for what's going to carry over. And there needs to be both a logical stopping point and a degree of a cliffhanger.
Yep.
A cliffhanger that you don't necessarily need, like it doesn't take anything away if you don't, ever get the second part of it. But if you do, then make it.
Mm-hmm. So
I feel like it's a lost art to write.
Yeah, it is.
These dense books. Like if you go back and look at comics, I mean, as early as like the 80s, I mean, it was very common to write a double-sized special issue, 48 pages, and have a ton of story because of the way they wrote the books. They used a lot of exposition. They used a lot of the narrative boxes and things like that. Thought balloons. When was the last time you saw a thought balloon in a comic?
That was actually an editorial mandate in the early 2000s.
Doc actually got me thinking about X-Men annuals the other day. So I pulled out all my annuals from annual 2 through like 12 and sat and read them. And if you want to read some really good tight storytelling in a one-shot format like that, read those particular annuals. And
sure.
Especially up to like issue 10 or 11 are outstanding, are just absolutely outstanding. One of my favorite little known comics is the Dracula storyline in, I think it was annual number 8, or is it 6? X-Men, Uncanny X-Men annual. But anyway,
that was 6.
6, yeah, fantastic and very tight storytelling, really well paced. I enjoyed the read. The artwork was fantastic. It was just 75 freaking cents. I mean, I would have felt like I had just hit the damn lottery. I was like, wow, I got a lot of entertainment out of this for 75 cents.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, because around annual
today's
12,
money, even $2, and that's like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, around annual 12 is whenever they started doing the annuals as a company-wide crossover, and it was that book's part.
So,
I just wanted to say real quick though,
contained though, that was really those particular annuals up to that point were just fantastic reads. And they're really well done. Yeah,
Marvel used to do really good. I didn't read DC back then, but I know Marvel annuals used to be something special. And it's funny because I am one of these people. I actually prefer the decompressed style of comics, but I say that with a caveat that when it's done well, I don't prefer the Brian Michael Bendis decompression where it's just nothing but fluff. Mm-hmm. But when a good writer can take 6 issues and really develop a story, I do actually. I'm not one of these people that bag on writing for the trade. I think it does allow for better storytelling when you have a talented person writing the book. But on the flip side, I think it also takes a great amount of talent and skill as well that it just doesn't exist in today's world unless you're like John Byrne or some of these old guys, you know, that are still doing stuff. They don't know how to they do this tight storytelling. They only know how to pretend how to be Bendis, and Bendis is bad enough that I don't want pretenders. Like, and it's
that's an excellent point. That's one of the leads right into what I want to talk about. So,
you
I think
were going to ask me a question.
Yes, we're gonna get to that point. So,
Okay.
at this point, we got plenty of books through Indiegogo now. I personally am seeing a bit of a trend where I think people are trying to create franchises with their books. They're putting way too much story into them, and they're too dense. The one person who I've gotten books from that I don't see that is actually Tim Lim and Mark Pellegrini. Doc, I know you've read those. Are you in agreement with me that they're keeping stories smaller so they're easier to read?
Yeah, they're just making a one-off fun story.
Mm-hmm.
Whether Trump Space Force, My Hero Macadamia,
Black
Ops, yeah, 2 issues, 1 issue, one shot. They're just aiming for something fun.
Mm-hmm. Because they're not trying to do so much, they're being more successful, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of aim small, hit big, instead of aiming big. And
well, they're also going into stores.
Yes, they are. That's
a huge deal for me.
It is.
I buy all of their books. I don't buy any of the other Indiegogo books. Stores is the selling point. If I can go, I went and bought Trump Space Force. Told my store, give me a copy, $4.99. Here you go. Walked out a happy camper.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that they're trying to work their way into something bigger, but they're taking their time, doing it the right way, trying to use all of the markets available to them. They're not just ignoring one because that market was mean to them once, which is kind of a little bit, what Ethan's doing right now. I mean, now Ethan, I'm still, come on. We all know that his Dynamite thing was because they're going to be publishing Cyberfrog in single issues. This is not fucking rocket science. They're the publisher that's going to have Cyberfrog for single issues.
Or maybe they're going to be the publisher. I was speculating, I don't know, maybe I'm way off base, but I was speculating that, Ethan's been trying to do this all caps comics thing. And I was like, what if he's doing the old Image model? Remember when Image started?
And they
didn't have their own company. They used Malibu.
Yeah.
And Malibu actually published the books physically.
Yes.
But it was Image's print. So what if Dynamite does that for Ethan?
Yeah, and I think that's what it's going to be. Like
that's genius. Like,
yeah, it's going to. Well, it's the way that a lot of Image even still is. I mean, Top Cow is still an imprint in Image, and they have their logo right next to the Image logo. Skybound does the same thing. They have their logo right next to the Image logo, and I think that's what it'll be with.
No, but you know what I'm saying? Like, Image couldn't actually make their own books. They didn't. They weren't a publisher, really. They didn't have access to Diamond and all the other distributors back then, because remember, this is pre-distributor war, so there was still Heroes World, Diamond, Pele. What were the other two? Capital? Was Capital still around?
I think that they were on their last legs.
Okay, but I think there was 2 more around the time, and they didn't have access to that market. They also didn't have, but Malibu did. They also didn't have contacts with printing, with actual print houses. Malibu did. I think that's what Ethan's going for there.
Yeah.
Actually, if he's doing that, I think that's genius, and I think that's the way that needs to happen for so-called CG comics, they
Yes.
cannot rely on this Indiegogo. Like, it's a
No.
great
No.
kickstart, pun not intended, but it's a great jump
it's a
start
good
for
revenue
them
generator to get you started,
to get you
your,
going, but
Yeah.
it's not sustainable. And if you can form your own company, you know, follow Image's footsteps, and you know, if Dynamite wants to do all the legwork and the physical work and they take a little bit of a cut, but you get your, you know, your logo instead of Dynamite, and you know, Dynamite gets a little kickback with you promoting their books with variant covers and stuff. It's a partnership, and that's the way the industry should work.
Yeah, I mean, Ethan, when Ethan posted, he posted a picture a couple of weeks ago. I think it's still up on his page. It had a mock-up cover for Cyberfrog #1. It had Dynamite's trade dress, except for it just said publisher instead of Dynamite. Like, you looked at it, and it's literally Dynamite's trade dress, except for it just said publisher instead of Dynamite.
Interesting.
And I was like, okay, well, this is clear. Dynamite is publishing it. They're probably going to put the all caps logo on it too. And it'll be a semi partnership for the time being, the same way that it was for Image until they were done with Malibu and they moved on. And got, you know, when they were big enough and had enough money themselves. And actually, because that was when they created the actual Image company, and moved away from Malibu. And I think that's what Ethan's going to end up doing with all caps. Eventually move away from Dynamite, but for the time being, it's a temporary financial boon to them, and it's also a, you know, it's a mutually beneficial relationship.
Okay,
Right.
so last thing I want to bring up before we do our recommendations for the week. So if you remember when you if you read Black Ops in issue 2 at the very end, the bunny opens up a picture and it's him and Red Rooster, correct? Doc, you remember that part?
I actually have Black Ops sitting in a box to read too. Sorry guys, can't really comment on that one.
But at the end of Black Ops, Red Rooster shows up.
Yes.
Not surprising at all.
Tim and Mitch work together. I believe they share an office with Mark. It sounds like Mitch is creating his own company. He's dotting I's, crossing T's. There obviously is a shared, connected universe between Red Rooster and Black Ops. Do you think does this mean to you that maybe Tim is going to be moving away from Antarctic Press and onto whatever it is that Mitch is creating?
Who's that for, me or? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think so. I think Tim saw what happened with Richard.
Well, I believe he also made that connection between the parties, right? He's the one that introduced them.
He's the one that introduced them, and
he appreciated that.
I don't think he did either. I don't think he and I don't think he appreciates the way that some of the more autistic sections of Comicscape went after him in the wake of all that. And it's the same reason why Mitch, I mean, look, let's be honest, Mitch just kind of vanished from all the live streams and all the everything after being a regular part for a while. And I think
as on the big the super stream where everyone aired out their grievances.
Yeah,
Mitch
he
just disappeared forever.
Yeah, and Mitch just was like, "Yo, I'm dipping out. I don't need this shit." And I think, and Tim doesn't, Tim will, if Zach started live streaming again, I think Tim would start showing up in there again, like he always used to. But I think Zach's the only one. I think he's, he's like, okay, well, look, Ethan can spurg out about all this stuff all he wants. We just want to make fucking comics and make money, and we don't need to fight this stupid fight. We're just going to actually go over here and build something with every normie that we can find, and build and build and build and build, and kind of, you know, fucking megazord our shit together into some monster indie press that every time somebody is good and needs a home for their project and isn't, you know, spurging with regularity on stupid shit and is just there to make comics, hey, bring him in. Does he got a good product? Bring it in. And I think that's what they're, you know, I wouldn't be surprised to see Tim end up over there. Well, Mitch and Tim, if I'm not mistaken, they're sharing studio space.
Yes, they have an office together.
Yeah. So Mitch
They're all
and
in
Tim,
Little Rock.
yeah.
I know it.
Yeah. So so with them already in the same room day after day, there's no chance that they're not like, oh yeah, why don't you keep your thing over there and I'll keep my thing over here, but I'm going to keep building this thing and I'm not going to invite you to hang out with us. No,
even though our
on.
universe is shared.
Yes, exactly.
So I think the original plan was for all this to go on to Antarctic Press, but I do believe Mark Waid fucked that up too.
Yeah. And I think that Dynamite is probably waiting a little while. They're going to wait until the last possible minute to announce their deal with Ethan, because they don't want a repeat, and they're hoping that there's a chance that the Wade and Zach situation is at least coming to a settlement by that point, and so that there's, you know, kind of some precedent that says, hey, you guys can't do to us what you did to AP. You just can't. Here's the courts saying you can't do this, and if you try it, we will take you to court. So they can't do it. They're trying. I think they're holding out hope that there's some resolution with that, so they have something kind of to hide behind as a shield, or until it's the last possible minute and they have to, you know, contractually do whatever they're contracted to do with Ethan.
Do you think that they might take the same path like that Malibu did, you know, with the whole deal with Image, where it's like kind of an invisible thing where they don't actually even have, like, they're doing all the printing and all the legwork, and not the legwork, but, you know, the physical work, but it doesn't even have Malibu on it. It's just strictly all caps or whatever.
Because the only place that it said Malibu was on the inside of the indicia.
Right.
That's the only place that it said Malibu Comics anywhere on it.
Yeah, most people did not know. It was a very, like,
yeah, you had to read the fine print that nobody reads.
Yeah, it was kind of a hidden thing, and I just with the whole temperament of the industry and how there's this whole culture war thing, I'm just wondering if it might make more sense for Dynamite to just sort of do this and just be like, keep Dynamite, and whatever they're doing with Ethan have its own label. Like, that's still their work, but not putting their name on it, so they don't have to, like, deal with the social outrage, you know, that is bound to happen.
I think that they might end up doing that. I think it's a 50-50. And you know what? Before Ethan posted that cover mock-up, I would have said yes without any hesitation. But the fact that he posted the cover markup that had literally Dynamite's trade dress, everything about it, except for not actually saying the name of the company. At that point, I was like, oh, is Dynamite gonna have the balls to put their name on it? And they might still back out. I don't know. And that might have still been just Ethan doing it because reasons.
Well, let me rephrase the question. What would you think if you were Dynamite? If you were Dynamite, what would you think would be the best way to do it?
If I was Dynamite, if I was going to do it that way, I wouldn't have made the deal with Ethan for all the Cyberfrog variants for their other stuff.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do you think maybe the Cyberfrog variants is a way of like normalizing it?
I think so. Yes,
they could do something really small that people can't get too uptight about. And then once it's done, it's like
they're trying to ease into it. Yes.
Well, if Dynamite was smart, what they would do is they would go into this, start with Ethan, start with some of the more well known get other top tier artists, get into, bring them in slowly, delete their social media accounts as far as the Dynamite social media for now, or at least go dark with them, ignore all the crap, and just slowly roll it out and just run with it. And it will work. It will work. There are customers out there that will buy, but the problem is just the brigading.
Right. And Ethan is viewed right at this point, right, as literally comics version of Hitler.
Yeah, he's Satan to them. I mean, he's Satan, and the Inquisition has started. So Torquemada, you got Mags Visaggio, I guess, was just the Torquemada of the Inquisition's already sharpening her blades. Most of the SJWs aren't complete idiots. They've got to know that that the Vampirella thing is a prelude.
So speaking of Mags Visaggio, I forgot I wanted to bring this up. Did you guys see that she is writing a new series on Valiant?
Yeah.
Oh God.
I'm sure.
No.
Valiant is officially dead.
Come on. They hired Heather as an editor. What the fuck did you think was gonna? Who do you think she was gonna hire?
Exactly. She's gonna hire her.
But Mags sells less than 1,000 issues.
It doesn't matter. They still hired an idiot as an editor, and the editor is the one that makes the decisions on hiring. They hire. They give assignments.
What is the name of this book?
Well, she's taking over Dr. Mirage.
Yeah, she's taking over the Dr. Mirage book.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
She's writing it. She's taking over the character. Yeah.
Check out her photo that she posted up on Twitter. Where she's like, oh God, I'm so bored. She's sitting there at the convention. Nobody. I mean, there is not a single customer within 50 feet of her. And like all these girls are like propped up in their little booths, for Valiant and for all the other indie companies, and they got their stacks of comics sitting in front of them. They're waiting for the customers to come in and just, push each other out of the way so they can grab those wonderful floppies. No. There's nothing. There's no one there.
Yeah, she posted about being bored, and then somebody was like, "Oh yeah, it'll pick up. How long's it been open? Well, only 90 minutes. Oh, it'll get better. Blah blah blah." And then like 7 hours later, she posted it didn't. Like, hey, you know what? Fuck you. This is the world you created. You did this.
I saw. I retweeted the photo that she had, but didn't have the text. And I just read the text one just like 10 minutes ago. I was browsing, and I was just cringeworthy. I was like, why would you posting the photo? I guess is a little attention getting, but posting about how the guy's like it'll get better, and then be like it didn't. It's like that. That's like, do you have no shame? Like I wouldn't post that. Like you're just advertising how much
you suck.
Yeah, like how people don't like you. Like that is the opposite of like how to get popularity, is to like promote how unpopular you are.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that's victim stat. It piles onto their victim point.
Sure. I get that. And I don't know. I guess this is why people have PR firms. But
at this point though, the victim points, how can you're at a convention, literally no one is stopping anybody from coming to see you. You can't even claim victim status.
You can't. There's nobody there to victimize you.
Yes, there's nobody there to victimize you. They're literally just ignoring you because no one cares. And I'm sorry, you made yourself ridiculously unlikable. You've shown no measurable talent, and you're just unlikable. That's at the end of the day, you're just an unlikable person, and you get surprised when people don't like you. I mean, we don't call you unlikable because we want people to not like you. We call you unlikable because people don't like you. They don't understand labels come as the result of that's the result. That's a description of the result, not a label.
All right, guys. It is like 100 degrees here.
All right,
I need
dude.
to put my pants as soon as possible. So let's wrap her up. And let's talk about our weekly comic recommendations. I'm going to send it to Ash because I know where you're going, brother.
Oh, throw me so obviously, if you're wondering about the current week of comics or books that are out right now, Hawkman 12, holy shit. I did a review on it, so I won't say much more. You can watch my review, shameless plug. This is the best ongoing comic run among the best I've ever read. I mean, this is going to go down for me as equal to the best runs I read back in the days when I was, a huge X-Men fan and Chris Claremont. It's going to go down for me is almost as good as Frank Miller's Daredevil. That Born Again is probably untouchable, but this is so good. And I just urge people, try this book out. And if you can, you could start off at number 1. I see books around these parts of the woods. Cover price, like the back issue. There's no like up cost on these. You can just buy them like you would buy them off the shelf, and it's only at 12. There's not a lot to collect. It's worth it. It retells. It doesn't retell. It tells a new definitive origin of Hawkman that does not replace the old origins. It builds on them, and it's a unique way. It's high adventure. It's emotional. It's heroic. But I don't want to spend everything on Hawkman. Flash number 70 and Batman Outsiders number 1 were highlights for me. And then upcoming next week, the big 2 I'm looking for is Oblivion Song number 15, one of the best indies that no one's reading, and Spider-Man Life Story number 3. I can't believe I'm plugging Marvel.
You know what? Damn it. You sold me on Hawkman finally.
Yeah, you need to read it. It's very, very, very good. I'm behind on it. I need to catch up, but it is a fantastic read.
You absolutely should be reading Hawkman, man.
I keep saying no because I don't care about DC. I've never cared about DC. I'll read it here and there. And because, again, look at my to read box. Like, what the hell do I need to be adding another series? I'm not reading what I'm buying. So, but you know what? God damn it. Fine. You know what? You sold me finally.
Well, I really hope it lives up.
All right.
It start from 1. The first couple issues, it's a little slow burn, but by issue 4, it's a roller coaster. Issue 7, you get the origin. Issues 8 through 12 is the second half. It's the Empire and Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi all rolled into one, and you get this massive payoff, and it's fun. So good.
And the best part is DC doesn't care about Hawkman, so all the crap happening in the DC universe is Hawkman. He's just on his own doing his own thing.
Well, that's actually a very good point.
It is a great point. It's like you don't get any of the crap. It's just Venditti on his own turns out to be an awesome character.
Awesome.
Yeah, I did not like Hawkman before this. I always thought Hawkman was stupid. I was like, I give 2 shits about Hawkman. And it was like on issue 5, and everyone was just like talking about, like, oh, it's so good. And I'm like, you know what? Keep canceling all my New Age of Heroes books. I'm gonna try this Hawkman out. And I just couldn't stop.
All right, Doc, you got any other suggestions?
Yeah, you know what? I got 2. Surprisingly, Mr. and Mrs. X.
Oh, come on.
You know what? As much as I cannot stand, you know what? As much as I think Kelly Thompson is fucking terrible on everything else, she's actually not doing bad on Mr. and Mrs. X. It's the only one that, like, it's actually a surprising. Now, granted, this is because the bar on X-Men has been lowered so far that it's that you know, Rosenberg's Uncanny is actually pretty good, but it's, you know what, I actually do like it. I like that they've already basically undone the stupid thing with the Mojo from the X-Men Black Mojo one shot. They basically took this issue to undo that, with him, you know, randomly falling in love with some random purple-haired Earth girl. I was so confused by that. But you know what? Darren Shan is the actual editor, even though Jordan White's the group editor. It seems like everything Darren Shan's the editor on is actually not bad. At worst, it's not bad. At best, it's actually kind of good. And another thing that I'm going to recommend is I finally got around to reading so you could probably pick it up in trade. Hell, you might still be able to pick up the singles, but Cosmic Ghost Rider from a couple, from like last year.
Donny Cates.
The first volume of it. I had bought it, and then, Donny Cates went on his anti-Comicsgate spurg out, and I was like, well, fine, I'm not going to read it. Screw you. Because it was around the time that I decided to drop Venom, too. And then he blocked me. So I don't give him money anymore. But I read it, and you know what? It's not bad. I enjoyed it.
The floppies are getting a little bit pricey as far as in the comic shop. Maybe get a trade on that volume one if you don't want to pay $8-10.
Okay.
Floppy,
yeah. So yeah, you know what? Surprisingly not bad. And also, my big pickup for the week was Uncanny X-Men 49 in actually about very fine condition. And it's the first appearance of Polaris. No, Polaris. 49. Yeah, 49 was first Polaris.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, so now that I have mine, anybody else can go buy theirs. That's the way I do it. I give a recommendation for a back issue after I've bought it.
So the prices aren't gouged up.
Yes.
All right, so sounds like Doc's got his recommendations out of the way. Pele, what's the shop hawking this week, buddy?
Okay, this last week was kind of like War of the Realms crap.
It's kind of a down week.
Realms. I'm not doing that. There's some really good True Believers that came out last week. I'm going to recommend those. They're good, cheap fun. The one Marvel's Greatest Creators, Luke Cage, Power Man came out as a True Believers. Really, really good. Go and pick up a lot of those True Believers, $1 a piece. You can't beat that. Since this is technically this week, the beginning of the following week, I'm going to go ahead and tell people, get a copy of Daredevil when it comes out. Daredevil #5 looks fantastic.
Couldn't agree more.
And so buy your Daredevil, go out there and support those wonderful creators for Daredevil. And
is that still Donny Cates?
Marco Cicchetto and Zdarsky.
Zdarsky. Okay.
Zdarsky.
All right, cool.
Not
We're good there.
Zdarsky, I was thinking. But yeah, I sometimes I get those two. I don't know why I get those. I get chipped.
The two best writers at Marvel.
Yeah, they're the two best. But also the True Believers. Let me pull that up. Yes, Iron Fist and the Invaders #1, which is from the original from the Bronze Age. True Believers. That's a book that's kind of hard to get. hard to find in back issues, so it's a really good pickup right now.
Awesome.
So
the perfect segue into me personally, I think Chip Zdarsky is the second hottest writer in all of comics, right behind Robert Venditti, who I don't see being replaced as the best writer in comics anytime soon. This week, his Invaders #5 just came out. It's an excellent story. If you don't think Namor has been treated right, is too wishy-washy, I think it's done a good job at cleaning up a lot of the weird Namor. Is he good? Is he bad? Type of stuff. It's been a great adventure. It's about to. I think it's got one more issue before the miniseries wraps up. But it's been excellent. I highly suggest it. If you haven't read the previous 4 books, you should go grab those as well. But even more on top of the list is Savage Sword of Conan #5 by Jerry Duggan and Ron Garney. It's the finish of their Savage Sword of Conan story. It's excellent, and it's sad because they're going off the story, and I think they're bringing in Patch and some other creeps to write Savage Sword of Conan in the future.
As an interjection there, it is an awesome Alex Ross cover on the main cover A. So
they always do, yes. They've been beautiful. Gorgeous.
Lots of blood, big axe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Head on
yeah, so it's always pretty bloody. So with that, I would like to thank everyone that joined us in the on the chat today. We actually had a lot of people. We had lots of comments, lots of questions. Really appreciate that. Really enjoyed the interaction. I think it improves the show. A lot of times it turns out our viewers know a lot of stuff that we're forgetting live. So it's nice that they're interacting with us. And I really appreciate that. So with that, Pele, where can people follow if they find you interesting?
You can find me anywhere on social media unless I'm going to get banned, which I've tried hard not to lately. But you can find me on any of the social media platforms, particularly Twitter and Instagram at @just_Pele, Pele.
Terrific.
And I tend to be more political on Twitter and strictly comics on Instagram. So.
All right. So also with us was Ash on Comics. He's my mortal enemy on YouTube. We're always battling with each other. Where can people find you, my man?
If by battling you mean that I'm always in awe of your videos and wishing I could do better, you can find me on Ash on Comics on YouTube. Just search that; it should come up. And on Twitter, it's at Ash1138. And yeah, everyone watch Wes's recent father-son comic episode.
Yes,
it was really touching.
Oh, thanks, man. That was I was really inspired when I got home from the hospital. I was like, I want to do something, and but finally all came together last night. I was really happy with it. Actually, got to show it to my wife this morning, and she thought it was a terrific Mother's Day present.
Oh, very nice.
So last but not least, we got Doc. Buddy, where can people find you?
Just on Twitter. I don't really use I don't really use Instagram much. But just at Science Jesus on Twitter. And yeah, I just mostly talk about X-Men because I'm an X-Men autist.
So when's your X-Men Exential X channel going to come up on?
Oh God, yes! My X-Men Exceptional X channel. I don't know. Like I've been so busy recently because I've been traveling a lot for work. That literally, I think I sat down and read comics for the first time in like a week yesterday.
I know exactly how you feel.
Yeah, I just don't have any time. That's what sucks about being a homeowner. You come home and you just got yard work to do.
That's why you get a wife.
Yeah, well, I'm still working on that part. So yeah, but just find me on. I will be soon-ish starting to do some. I'm trying to get myself in that groove of reading a lot of the old X books because I've been spurting out about the way that they just kind of ignored the fact that there are 8 X-Men that are still supposed to be invisible to electronic surveillance.
It's a lot of X-Men.
I will never. This is a hill I will die on.
Those editors weren't alive during that storyline.
I know.
Yeah,
They
that's
don't
the
know.
problem.
They don't know anything past before 2000.
I know. The goddamn Siege Perilous did not wipe that out, and I will die on this hill.
And you can expect that kind of great content on the Essential X channel with Science Jesus.
Whenever I get around to. Yes. Soon. I
Rad.
promise soon.
All right, guys. Like I said, thank you so much for joining us. We had a lot of fun today. Went really well. And Salamat Po. I'm out.
Bye, everyone.
Later, y'all.